Hello, ladies and gents of the internet. Nicholas Knockan, Duskwell himself here, and welcome to another episode of Table Talk, where we talk about and showcase independent tabletop games, whether it be RPG, strategy, table, or card. And with me, I have a very special guest here. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Trevor. I'm the author and creator of the Veil of the Void tabletop role-playing game. I'm excited to be here too. So,
Now, this has been a thing I've been closely paying attention a lot to because it's something I've never really quite seen quite like it before. So definitely caught my interest, especially when this is also going to be the surprise, whether or not be the first tabletop game that will have a physical book that I'm going to own. I
yeah,
never I never owned a physical copy of a manual before, so that's quite exciting.
yeah, that was the one that you won through the Twitter thing. So that's cool to be your first hardback. I'm like, oh hey, sweet.
Yeah, it's always great. So to so before we get into the interview, I'm gonna give you a rundown of how this is gonna go, so that you know it and the people at home will know it. So what's gonna happen here, and I know we're probably not gonna go through the whole thing because you said you're gonna have to leave in not too long of a time, an hour and a half, I think you said.
Yeah, I have some family issues I have to deal with later, but I will stay as long as I can because I want to stay. So,
Yeah, it's perfectly fine, and depending on where we're at, I might stay for a bit longer just to talk about the game. But
Mhm.
first, we're going to spend the first hour just getting to know you a little bit, ask you some questions about you, the team, what got you into the tabletop, and what it was like making the game and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Then after the first hour, we'll take a 5 to 10 minute break, and then we'll come back. And if there aren't that many questions left, we'll probably finish them up when we come back. But then we'll
Mhm.
go straight into this copy of the demo book that you just gave me before the show. We will go
Perfect.
through sort of like the introduction of it, give people the feel of the game and what it looks like and
Mhm.
all that stuff. And then probably around that time, you're probably going to be leaving, but I'll probably still be going through the book.
Okay.
That fine with you?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So then let's not waste too much time. Then let's get right into it. So let's let's start with a basic question here. What would you say got you into playing tabletop games?
Um, so what actually got me into playing tabletop games was what, about 10 years ago or so. My friends and I, one of my older friends invited us to come play Pathfinder.
And is that like your first game?
That was the first time we ever played it. It was really confusing and none of us knew how to do it, but it was a lot of
Well,
fun.
Pathfinder is very extensive.
Yeah, they told me Pathfinder was easier than the third or fourth edition or something. So I was like, oh, cool. And then we
No,
played it. We're
fourth
like, oh,
edition is exceptionally easier.
yeah, we didn't know when we went into it. So, but we learned, and it was fun to tell stories together.
Now here's the thing: were you the DM or were you just a player?
I was the player. I had no idea how to do any of that. So,
What did you play?
oh, I think I played a gnome druid.
Oh, that's fun.
I think that's the very first thing I played because I saw a miniature online
Did
beforehand.
if you turned into a wolf, did you turn into a chihuahua?
No, I don't think I actually did a wolf. I think I did a. I think I just summoned a like tiger thing. I can't remember.
You were more of a summoning druid, less of a shape shifting one.
Well, we never got to the level really like high enough to where I could turn into anything but like a small bird. So I was like, okay, I don't need to do that right now. I'll just summon a giant bear to my side.
And since y'all didn't get too high of a level, I imagine the game didn't go on for too long.
Yeah, I went on for about like 3 or 4 sessions, and then we all got busy with school and stuff. So,
Oof. And so was that like in high school or something?
yeah, that was near the beginning of high school, actually.
Oh, okay. I didn't get into because my first game was a fourth edition. I didn't get into that until like late high school.
Yeah.
Well, what were some other games you got into?
Let's see. So other
After
than
that?
that, I also had some fun with oh, what was it? The Fate system. The Fate system was enjoyable.
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that.
It's a custom dice system. It pretty much is you roll a bunch of d6s, but they're
Okay.
different style of d6s, different outcomes. It was a pretty fun, fun system to play with. It was like an open-ended more system. Uh, and then after that, I started to dive into Seventh Sea, which I don't know if you've heard of
Hmm.
that one, but I really like
I
that one.
I think so. I think I've heard of that one.
That one uses all D10s, and
Oh yeah, oh,
it's
yeah.
more of a you say what you want to do, and then based on the D10, if you still have one, you can do it. It's
Right.
not so much you roll for stuff. Um, and then I also played some of the Star Wars RPG that
Oh,
Fantasy Flight has.
oh, of course. If you're going to play, if you're going to, I guess if you're going to make a sci-fi game, you should play the Star Wars one at least once.
Yeah, and then I played a lot of 5E. That was the big one for a while, but
A lot of my experience is more homebrew than anything actually set.
yeah,
Surprisingly enough.
we did more homebrew with it, and then but we still stuck to all the rules because we were terrified to advance past them because we're like, we don't know if this is going to be too broken or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's fair enough. So, out of all those games you have played, which one you have to say would be your favorite?
Um, I actually think I probably the Fate system was closer to one that I really liked now.
Oh, yeah.
5e was good, but I've kind of grown apart from 5e. So
I can't blame you too much about that. And what exactly gave you the idea of wanting to transition from just a tabletop, player to a tabletop creator?
uh well, I eventually got to the point where I was like, well, I want to make something like I want to make a system that I can enjoy like every part of the system.
Hmm.
Because there was issues that I had with all RPGs, and I was like, okay, well, I liked a little bit of rules for this one, and I liked how this one kind of feels and stuff. Um, and so I just had an idea that's been sitting that I've been working on since I was like 10 years old of a universe, and I'm like, oh well, let's make rules for this universe. And so I originally started just going into making stuff for the Savage Worlds RPG. Um,
I recently covered a game that used the Savage World system as well.
yeah, so I found that was kind of cool, and it left up some homebrew, pretty easy options. So I dove into that for a while, but then I found it was a lot of fun to just write the rules and stuff.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start making my own.
So,
Um,
so it's more of a combo of being dissatisfied with what's out there and combo of I want to try my own hand and see what happens kind of a thing.
yeah,
I imagine that's like the most common kind of reason as to why people want to get into making their own tabletop game. They kind of like what other games have done, but felt that the system in of itself either couldn't or didn't do all the things they wanted out of a game,
yeah,
so decide to take their own hand at it.
yeah. I've seen that a lot of times, and or people have an idea, but the rules don't fit those ideas and how to do that kind of stuff. So it's kind of how it was just a combo of a bunch of different things.
So why not just make our own and see if we can make it work?
Yeah,
So that way, other people that may feel like us get to have their chance at doing something with it.
yeah, pretty
Mm.
much it.
Now, I also know that through your website, which is down in the description, you do have a team for this project for Veil of the Void. How and where have you met them and got them on board to help you make this game?
Yeah, so it was actually funny. So I have an artist and an editor, and it's really just us three all together that kind of work on the finance stuff about Veil of the Void. Um, my editor, Noble Grant, I came across her. She's actually a friend that I've known for a while through another friend, and then I
Hmm.
found out she really likes writing and editing. Um, and so I hired her and commissioned her to write some of the stuff before the classes,
Hmm.
because I was a big fan of her writing because I read some of it beforehand, and I was like, okay, she's got really good story writing and stuff. And I was like, I can include that in my story in my book, and that'd be awesome.
Hmm.
And then I eventually convinced her to come play the game because she hates RPGs. And she just really does not like RPGs. And she came and played it, and now she absolutely loves Veil of the Void. And we still all play every Saturday, pretty much. Um,
And so I guess you could say she's part of the beta testing crew.
Yeah, she was from the.
Probably also an alpha tester as well.
Yeah, she was the very beginning. Her and her brother and another friend of mine all very tested the very horrible first edition
Oof.
when it first came out. But because of their suggestions, it became much better.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how I know her. And then after she started editing the game, she really got into it and is now the
Yeah.
editor for the book.
Then maybe you should think about getting one of my friends to help with beta testing, because whenever I showed him the demo book, he's had quite a few criticisms about some things.
Yeah, it's always, criticism's always good, and it's just like, yeah, sure, just come play it and let's see how we can fix it. That's the thing that's been really good is I have a bunch of beta testers and people that I've been using this with for the over the past year to test it all, and they've all come back with great feedback
Hmm.
after they got over the fear of, oh, do I actually tell him how I feel about this? I was like,
Sure.
yes, please.
It's like I know I should be giving criticisms, but should I?
Yeah, the people always, you always have to encourage them to get past that step because people don't like, a lot of people don't like to give you that.
As a person who wants to be a good writer, myself, I always tell people I'd rather have a good constructive critique than just a generic compliment.
Yep, that's how I am. So eventually, once my editor got over that fear, she gave me a lot of red, and and now she has no reserve.
I can already imagine, like, you give her the thing for the first edit, and she like gives you back with maybe like one or two red streaks. It's like, and then you like send it back to her like, "Are you sure that's it? Like, come on, just be 100% honest with me. I'm not going to be angry, I promise." Then she sends back another thing like, entire sheets are just red.
Yeah, that's probably how it would have happened. What it really was is she didn't start editing the game until I was to the point where I wanted it to be edited. Once I
Hmm.
got all the information down, and by then she was used to it. So I got pages and pages upon red and reworks and crossouts and rewrites and stuff.
Oof.
And I was like, oh, good, sweet, this is great. I can
Yeah.
actually know how to make this sound better now. Um,
Hey, finally, some
yeah,
tangible help.
yeah, that's the hardest part I've noticed about creating a book is getting people to be honest with you about how they feel because
They
one
just don't want to.
people
They just don't want to hurt your feelings
they don't
about
want
it.
yeah they don't want to hurt your feelings about your thing that you've been working on and love so much that they're like, yeah, no, there's it's great. It's like, no, tell me what's wrong with it. That's what I want to know.
That's the whole point of this happening.
I know there's good stuff about it, but there's a lot wrong. So tell me what's wrong. I can't do it alone. And then
We got Ethan Wickham in the chat saying that he knows a guy to tell you if it's straight up crap to your face if you were to show him.
yeah, see, that's good. It's good to have those people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because honesty is the best thing, even though it can kind of hurt people sometimes. But
It can.
I'd rather be a little bit like
It's a
oh, and have something better.
it's a good hurt. It's the kind of hurt you get when you know it's healing.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's what we want to make something good for everybody else. So,
Mhm.
but my second member is Peter. He's my artist, and I found him actually looking through DeviantArt for about a few weeks, trying to find someone that I
Okay,
could look at their
so
art.
nobody in this team you've have done any of your initial tabletop gaming experiences with. They're just people you just so happen to find somewhere.
Yeah, so it was either someone that I found online through the
Through a mutual or just by happenstance.
yeah, and then one of them I just knew from being a friend with. So
Yeah, fair enough. And how was working with him as an artist?
oh, he's great. I'm a very relaxed person when it comes to artwork, so
Hmm.
he was actually a little surprised at first when I told him I'd give him the very basic idea and some pictures, kind of what I'm thinking of,
Hmm.
and then I tell him to have fun with it, make it how he thinks.
Well, okay, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, and he was kind of confused at first because a lot of times artists don't get to add their own flavor and fun to it.
Yeah, it's more. I want this to be made exactly like this, or I'm not going to pay you.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm more like, I want this game to be fun for everybody, and so I give him a very nice detailed list of kind of what the details and explanations of stances and
Hmm.
ideas and stuff to help him based on what he asked for.
Hmm.
But then I would be like, oh, and add as much flavor as you want and bring this idea kind of how you see it. And so every time he did, it just made the picture so much better than I could have designed it as.
Right. Ethan also says that he could show the guy tomorrow the stuff if you want, and he's also in the Discord.
Oh, he's in the Discord.
Yeah.
Awesome. I
And
will think about
and
that.
and I imagine, since this is a guy you just so happened to find online because you saw some of his work, you want him to work on your book because you like this style. So you didn't want to. So I imagine you had like no intentions at all to even do anything that would restrict him on his art style that you appreciated enough to ask him to be on board with the project.
Yeah, I gave him a few things that I don't really like. Like I don't like half-dressed women and stuff in my designs. So, and he doesn't do that anyway. But I always have to
Yeah.
give out a few small basic limiters like that. But for the most part, he's like, yeah, I can definitely do this. And it was like, okay, cool. You just get to work, and we'll see how it goes.
N- Not to say that half naked women aren't bad. They're just more of a plus than a foundation.
If that's what you want
Yeah,
to do for your
yeah,
artwork stuff, then
yeah,
sure. It's just for mine. I'm like, I'm good without
yeah.
it in this one. So
And when you say before and after working, well, we kind of like go over a little bit of this, but what do you say like before and after working on Villa Boy? Would you describe your experiences with the tabletop community as a whole?
it's been good. It's been really fun, and there's been a lot of people who've been getting really interested in the book and wanting to learn more. And I've had nothing but good stuff so far. And I'm excited to start adding even more uh, designs of other people in the community into the book too. Eventually,
And not really any noteworthy changes between the two to really say either before or after making the game, just overall positive experiences.
yeah. No, I've had a few people that said, "Oh, you clearly can't have enough content if the book doesn't have more than 350 pages." But after some people who have seen the book, they're like, no, there's more than enough content in here to meet 500 pages. You just didn't, blog and, get just, I didn't just completely repeat everything over and over again.
Yeah,
Um,
or just fill it up with nothing but fluff.
yeah. So I had some few people that were like, oh, the book won't be able to make it, or it doesn't have enough content clearly. But I mean, you're always going to get those kind of people, whatever you do. So
I mean, you can make a thing work with just 10 pages, as long as those 10 pages are just dense with actual mechanics to make a game work.
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It so I've had a few things like that, but for the most part, everybody's been super good and helpful and just excited about the book. So
Yeah, that's fine. What would you say during the creation of Veil of the Void? You would say what would be your favorite moments? What were some things during creation that really sort of either astounded you or made you feel proud of being a creator?
well, my favorite moment that I've had was when someone came to me the other day and they said that the book has been inspiring them to rewrite stuff
Hmm.
again, and they haven't even seen it yet. And they're like, just the amount of work and stuff that I put into the demo book, and then just the
and,
amount of
and of
talk
course,
about
not to say your enthusiasm with talking with your own little community.
Oh yeah, no, it's been so much. It's been cool to see how many people are just super excited about it, and to be like approached by you to want to do something like this, and then just people. It's just been the best part is just to see people actually enjoy the game. Um,
Just to enjoy something you created for what it is.
yeah, well, that's what I wanted. Like, I just wanted people to have fun with it because I had a ton of fun making it.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think the second best part was seeing the rules actually work and have my group finally get to the point now where everything's pretty much balanced where it should be.
Hmm.
And to see them, my actual play group, to actually see them totally roll and get into the game every Saturday is great.
Hmm. To trail back a little bit, because I noticed I kind of skipped the question. Now, what gave you like the idea of coming up with Veil of the Void specifically? What started you down the path of wanting to make the game as it is, this weird sci-fi mixed with fantasy kind of element? Like,
Well, so it originally started as a like whatever 16 years ago, I think it was. It started out as a fantasy idea.
Hmm.
I wanted it to be like the next big, like super cool MMO game.
Okay.
But then I realized I have to go to college for that, and I didn't want to go to college to learn how to design.
Completely understandable.
Yeah. So, but it eventually started growing because I was a huge fan of like Star Wars and Star Trek, but I was also a huge fan of Lord of the Rings and other fantasy style stuff. So eventually, after working on the book and progressing it through, I was like, well, why do I have to stick to one genre? Why don't I just combine both of them? My universe was already pretty accepting to that idea, so then it just kind of burst off from there.
Hmm. And we kind of like to look a little bit into more like what the themes and the specifics are once we actually pull up the book later in this interview. But
Mhm.
now to catch back up to where we left off before. Um, Again, we kind of went into one of some of your favorite moments while creating the game, but let's go a little bit further into the time span of creating the game. And what would you say would be some of your most interesting experiences while testing out the game?
Um, yeah, so it's taken 4 years to get the book fully done now.
Hmm.
Um, and it's been a long time. Those first 3 years, or sorry, the first like 2 years were just of writing it all
Hmm.
and coming up with the ideas. And that took forever because I was stuck on the freaking dice system for so long. I was like, how do I make this dice system work? I was like, I don't want to copy another system at all. You know, I'm like, I took a little bit of like, oh yeah, D6 system.
So you want to do something completely original with it?
Yeah, like it's something that's familiar, but I didn't want to make it so complicated. I was like, oh, the dice system was driving me nuts for a good year about
I
how
would
to
say
do
that
it.
I would say that is one thing I kind of like appreciate with this game because like I've played D6 systems before. I've never seen a D6 that worked like this before.
Hmm.
But I've also played a little bit of Warhammer, and I also got like a little bit of the Warhammer vibe where you just stack dice upon dice upon
Yeah,
dice. It's kind of like a very nice mix of it.
yeah, and that's the thing that I tried really hard to do with this game is to make something that's familiar but unique. And
And I can
so,
imagine so many people being satisfied just stacking up enough dice where you got like two handfuls of d6s,
oh
just
yeah,
letting them fall on the table.
oh yeah, one of my players, he rolls with the max number of 16 dice because he's
Hmm.
just super good at speechcraft. He's a negotiator. And so he's gotten to the point where he's just stupidly good at talking to people. And I
Hmm.
always see the little smile every time he just rolls all these dice and just watches them fly over the field. He's like, "Yep."
Yep, I succeeded.
And I enjoy doing that too as a DM. I'm just sitting over here like, "Oh, look at this! You guys hear more dice? That means this is going to be more of a challenge." So that's everybody loves the dice.
And I also like, did you actually have like a scaling difficulty system
Yeah,
to complement the stacking of dice?
yeah. There's a very nice. I tried really hard to make a very nice balance between the two, and there's a lot of good stuff to do for because it's not in the demo book, but I do have like 15 pages of GM's explanations of every trick I use to make everything and balance everything in the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that way the GM can quickly look to it and be like, okay, here's how many dice I need to add if I want it to be this difficulty or something along those lines. But
Very,
there's also,
very convenient.
yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to make the game as easy for people to run, even if you've been doing it for a long time or if you've never done it, because it
Have
is a,
a optimal play time rule looking up time ratio.
yeah, because I hate looking through rules. So,
Yeah, this is the reason why you saw like whenever I did my test character, which was the field knight, you
uh,
saw how I laid out my character sheet, which was different than what you had because that's how I operate. That's how I could
yeah,
get all the information in and not have to look up rules.
yeah, yeah. So it's all different that kind of stuff. So I never enjoyed navigating rule books in general.
Mm,
And so one of my things that I went with this book especially was to make chapter contents for the super difficult to navigate ones. And then I really wanted color coding and things like that. So the main PDF in the book is super easy to navigate. Any
right.
question you can have, you can quickly find by going through the chapter contents and stuff.
And I will say in the demo book, the examples you provide are actually pretty good as well.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a few people have told me, and I'm glad because you need some good examples to explain stuff. So
Yeah, because like I remember a couple of times me and my friends were looking over, kind of confused at a concept, and we look at the examples like, oh, that's what that means.
Yeah, anytime I would, when I was writing it, I tried to think of from a person's perspective. And
Hmm.
so I'd be like, well, what does this mean? Oh, okay, let me just add an example here because most of it's clear cut, but let me get that example so that I don't have to repeat myself really later on.
Right.
And then I also had a bunch of people who would read through it beforehand, and then if they had a question, I would bring an example in there. So that's a lot of the
Mhm.
examples came from that as well.
Right. Now, since you've done since you've been creating this game, have you ever gotten to like any like events with this game, like conventions or meetups, and have other people kind of look into this game, or have your experience with getting people into the game been more of an online thing?
No, actually, I've had several people in town that I've through this thing called Meetup.
Hmm.
Um, I've met a lot of fun GMs and stuff like that, and I gave them my old test copies of the books when they were first starting, and had them test it with their groups. I tested it with my groups. I've been to several conventions within town, and played with people and gotten their feedbacks from it. I've sent it to several other people online that are like big time GMs I know that are good at reviewing things, and they've sent me back feedback. And then so I've done a lot of different testing from different people and their opinions.
And you say that overall, very positive,
Oh yeah,
very positive outlook from all these people you met up about the game.
oh yeah. I've had some people that were a little reserved by first. I've even had some people that are like um, totally into pure rules because they're more of a rule based person than storytelling.
They're more of a oh geez, what the hell is the
I know there's a term, but I always
what the hell
forget.
is the like the in community name for those guys? I can never remember.
I don't know. They're like rule
Rule
mongers,
lawyers, I think they're called rule
lawyers. Yeah,
lawyers.
there's
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, so I've had people like that, and they've even come back and sat in a few of their things, and he's actually gotten past caring about the rules and more wanting to build his story. So I'm like, hey,
Yeah,
even
yeah, because this game, even within the rule book itself, says is more of a role play focused kind of a game rather than
yeah,
a rule lawyers game,
yeah.
or possibly even a power gamers game.
Well, it does say there that if you enjoy power gaming, then go ahead and do so because there's definitely ways to break this game. Because I have a friend right now who's really hard for me to hit because he like took every single defensive ability in the
he
game.
he, he min maxed his character to be
Yes.
the absolute tank.
Yeah, because we were missing a tank in the party, so he's like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna make a super tank. And but he min maxed his character to be really good at something.
Hmm.
And so he's really good in combat. But outside, because he min maxed, he's got a lot of negatives to other
He
things.
is not good for social situations,
Yeah,
bartering, utility stuff like crafting or spotting or money making.
yeah. The
He, he,
captain,
he's only the face the enemy beats in.
yeah,
That's
the captain continually tries to train him while they're flying through space on how to improve his speechcraft.
mhm.
And since he's a lizard, he already has a negative to his speechcraft because
Oh
they can't
no,
talk very well.
oh no.
Uh, and so every time I make him roll a check because you actually can level up skills in this game and stuff as well.
Well, we definitely know he's not a negotiator.
No, he's not a negotiator. He's a field knight. But
Oh well, of course he's a field knight.
yes, and then he's really good at intimidating people now because he's failed so many speechcraft checks that I'm starting to give him points into intimidation. So he thinks he's being really good with people, but he's actually terrifying them as he talks to them. So
I remember a story of a friend of mine who was in a game with a an orc rogue that was no, it was like an orc barbarian that also went rogue,
mhm.
and he was very crap at stealth. He had
Yeah,
no stealth skill whatsoever, but he still liked to steal stuff. Now, but here's the thing: he was always successful,
mhm.
and that was because he had a very high intimidation factor.
Yeah,
So what would happen is that every time he tried to steal, he would get caught, but he would successfully intimidate him into not doing anything about it.
yeah. So he's like, I'm really good at this. No, no, you're just scary.
Like, I remember there was like an example where he tried to steal something from like an outdoor shop, and a
Mhm.
guard spotted him. He did a charisma check for intimidation, passed it. So the character just looks straight at the guard's like, "You didn't see anything." The guard, I did not see a thing.
You're right. I did it. Huh, weird.
Uh,
Here you
uh,
go.
it's weird how I didn't. It's weird about the nothing I saw.
Yeah, and then that was one of my favorite things about RPG games is that they're just so much fun to play, and so that's why I made Veil of the Void is to just absolutely encourage every crazy idea, but give the GM the balance to maintain it.
But speaking of power gamers, you already talked about how your experience of someone who, well, yeah, you already talked about some of your experiences with a power gamer. Have you saw any other examples of people power gaming the system?
Um, I've seen. It's funny because a lot of the times in this game, when you're building your character, you're kind of power gaming it because you're like, oh, I want to be super good at stealth, so let me just put in a bunch of points into this. Um, but the funny thing with the power gaming in this game is you'll be really good at that for a while, but eventually you'll actually start getting your other points to kind of rise up based on things you do. So even when you go into power gaming it, your character becomes more of a balanced person based on your choices in game later on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so pretty much when you build your power game character level 1, you're going to be really good at that for the rest of the game, but then you're also going to start eventually becoming better at everything else after failing it so many times.
And that is one thing I did kind of enjoy while looking through is that it is a thing I wish a lot of other games did, where the more you did something, the better you got at it. Because as much as I like D&D, I hate the fact that with how the system works, is that even if you're really good at a thing, it still feels like 90% of the time you're going to fail at doing it.
Yeah, that was my big complaint with it too. That's why I
And,
made the system as
if
it
it
is.
just makes it even worse, where you're got to do something where you purposely chose to be pretty crap at just to be good in some other things because you didn't think it'd be important for your character, or another person in the party was pretty good at that by themselves, and you're just constantly succeeding at this one thing you're supposed to be bad at.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're never succeeding in the thing you're supposed to be good at.
Yeah, I know that was my big thing because I would always make a character be I mean my character's usually pretty rounded, but there was always like that one thing that like in their backstory they were super good at this. And
And
then I would
more
perform the
often
check
than
and it was
not,
like, nope.
it's actually a thing that's also pretty vital for their class to work.
Yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
like, well, never mind. They're not very good at it.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
dice have said that I suck.
Apparently, our adventurers are supposed to be, the cream of the crop amongst average people, but average Joe John McGee is better at doing this thing my character's supposed to be good at. So hey,
Yeah, yeah. So when I went into this, I wanted it to be like if you design your character to be super good at something, pretty much you're going to be super good at that.
mm-hmm.
It'll be harder for you to fail. You still can fail, and oh boy, if you fail and you're really good at it, you're going to fail in a glorious way. Because I mean,
Oh yeah.
if you fail at something you're super good at, it must have been a bad failure.
That means it was a very difficult thing to do, anyways.
Yeah.
And
So
to be another thing I kind of appreciate with the system, because of how the scaling works, you do have this system in place where just by how the system works, that there's challenges you just cannot physically even attempt to do because they're so complex,
yeah, there are some that that's the one of
which is
the big rules there.
incredibly
Yeah.
realistic. It is
Yeah.
incredibly realistic.
Yeah, and then if it's something that you can't yourself complete, if you all work together with group checks, you have a better chance of completing something through dumb luck or something, or if someone knows how to do it better. But
Oh
there
yeah.
is things that you yourself cannot do because you're like, I don't know how to fly a ship properly. Yeah, what are all these buttons do? Like,
And it can be something like, oh, I'm really good with tech, but that's a type of technology I am not at all familiar with. What am I supposed to do with this?
yeah. So that's the difficulty system is really there to encourage that role playing, and if your character's not good at something, they can learn. So even if you fail, there's a system where if you can't complete the thing, you can take an advantageous failure, which means that you fail at it, but something good kind of comes out of it,
Yeah.
which will give you a bonus point into your, or which will give you a roll into your skills. So
Mm-hmm.
you may not be good at it, but from failure, you kind of learn how to get better.
Right.
So it's very role
And
player.
Ethan just states has -5 nat 20s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly because that's the one bit thing that always happens in Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, oh, I have nothing. How did I just do this? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Why am I so terrible at the things I'm good at, but so good at the things I'm terrible at?
Yeah, so I wanted a system that if you built your character to be good at something, if it's in your backstory, especially if you feel like this is how your character should be, that's how they're going to be.
Because overall, it is a game of role play, not a game of actual mechanics. You're supposed
Yeah,
to have fun with making the story.
yeah. Well, the mechanics are there to encourage the story.
Yeah.
That's why they exist. But they still are really fun if you like to roll dice, or if you're more of a mechanics based person. You can still have a lot of fun with the mechanics, because I still enjoy making the mechanics. So
And of course, mechanics is also there to help other people if they want to, make their own thing.
yeah, that's the biggest part about the mechanics, is like in the whole GM section, there's just tables upon tables of how to balance and make your own races, how to make your own classes, how to make your own abilities, how to customize
Mm.
spells, how to make expertise,
And
etc.
and it is a bit of that I also kind of enjoy, because while me and my friends were looking up through the first edition of the demo book, we looked
Yeah.
into the Thaumaturg because one of my friends was thinking about doing a spell caster because he doesn't do spell casting all that often,
Hmm.
and he always finds that fire is very like overrated. Everyone always makes like a fire mage.
Yeah.
And when it was stated in the rules that you can basically switch out damage type or like element types for
Yeah. Yeah.
damages and defenses, as well as like combined spells, and be up to the DM if doing that does increase the difficulty of casting spell, and if
Hmm.
so, like by how much. And and now he's very happy with wanting to do a Thaumaturg where that takes all the fire spells but switch out the fire damage for ice damage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best part, is you can just switch it
Yeah.
up pretty quickly. And that's
Yeah.
that's kind of how mages should be. Dang it. I always said that was my biggest issues. That's one of the big reasons I
I
also
am
made
supposed to be an
Battlefield.
all-powerful wizard. Why can't I make my own spells?
Yeah, that was my biggest complaint with a lot of RPGs, is how they handled mages. And so my magic system took me like about 8-9 years or so now altogether
Hmm.
to develop, because I wanted it to be a very good magic system.
Right.
And man, mages feel like they feel really strong, because they can
And
customize their
give like
stuff.
one
But
or two spells, they can be incredibly strong.
yeah, and that's the thing, is there's like no limits. But you also have to be careful, because if you fail a spell, it's going to go crazy, because magic
Oh
is
yeah.
not forgiving in this universe. So
Oh
there's
yeah,
a
because the
there's
thing's
a
the thing
lot.
where if you like critically fail, it can just go out of control
Yeah,
without.
it can go crazy.
Yeah, you can wreak havoc on both sides of the battlefield.
Yep, yep. I
And,
had
and, and you have to spin actions to try and rein it back in.
yep, trying to calm down the magic. We had a spellcaster friend in our group, who he accidentally failed one of his spells, but he critically failed it this time. So it just summoned this giant like volcano tornado twister above them, and they
Oh
all had to
geez.
like make these checks to try to jump out of the way. And he had eventually,
Wait a minute. When do we get into space Australia?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Space Australia. That's a good way to describe that.
Because they do have seasonal fire tornadoes, which is a
Yeah, yeah.
scary idea.
That is terrifying. Everything in Australia, like, it's a great place, but I don't want to go there. It sounds so scary. Everything wants to kill you down there.
Well,
Um,
there's a reason why that's where Mad Max takes place and what inspired Borderlands. So
yep.
hey, take that for what you will.
Hey, at least it's got some cool stuff down there.
At least.
But yeah, but mages in this game, I love them, because they're very all about customizing and building their own spells, and using magic to their best ability, while also having to respect magic, because it has a
Mhm.
chance of biting them in the butt if they don't.
Oh yeah. I thought that was Japan with the fire tornadoes. I don't remember Japan having a thing with fire tornadoes. I just know that's definitely a thing in Australia.
Hey, you know what? We have Google here. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Japan
Maybe.
fire tornadoes. I'm just
Why?
curious. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, there were fire tornadoes in Japan. Look at that.
Oh, well, hey, more you know. Fire tornadoes are spreading. Look at the disease.
Oh great.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
And because Japan, a lot of that stuff was probably irradiated too. Oof.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah, no, that doesn't sound fun at all.
nah. Now, speaking of all these classes, I know all these classes are probably your precious little children and don't want to play favorites, but do you personally have a favorite class within the Veil of the Void?
So if you'll talk to any of my friends, they'll constantly tell you that I'm constantly switching my favorite classes. 'Cause when I add something new, yeah, when I add something new, I'm like, oh, this is now my favorite class. I love this. And then I'll be like, oh, but I really like that class. But I did make one the other day that isn't going to be released yet. It's going to be released in one of the miniature releases coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the Blade Dancer.
Now this one I haven't seen.
No, this is one that has not been released. It's
Oh,
not even in the core rulebook yet. It's one of the coming up releases.
special just for interview reveal.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Pretty much because I haven't told anybody else yet, really. So, but
So, and any sort of descriptor you want to give of Blade Dancer to kind of give an idea what they're about?
yeah, so they're a really cool class. About pretty much they summon, they pretty much bind blades and weapons like that, melee weapons, to their soul, and they can like summon them from their soul during combat to fight with.
Mm.
But they're all about let me just bring it up here because I have all of the
Are
information.
they mostly going to be just melee, or will they have some magic to
So
them?
they're all so I like to make everything mixed up. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
called blade
yeah.
dancers.
I gotta remember that.
So they
But
have
I imagine even with that philosophy, they're probably not going to have much use with guns.
they have three specializations. They have the art of precision, which makes them really good at level 5 and onwards of perfectly timing things. Like they can use points to inflict critical hits or to re-roll critical fails and stuff like that.
So there'd be more of a precision fighter.
That one would, if you took that one.
A lot more of a burst damager.
Yeah, if you took that one. But then there's the art of distance, which instead you can also now bind ranged weapons to your soul as well.
Oh, okay.
And your ranged abilities can be affected by your dance ability, which pretty much once you hit something in battle, you can teleport to another person and hit them with another blade.
Did I hear gun kata?
Yes. And so they're all about, so if you want to go distance, yeah, you can choose that one. Or the reason I like it is because the art of the spell blade, which lets you enchant each of your blades with a spell that after you perform an attack with it, you can cast that spell.
So basically, what I did with my test field knight.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But then they also later on they can counter spells with their blades. And if they counter that spell, their blade consumes the spell and it refreshes the spell charge so that they can just go all over the battlefield.
So that won't be more of an anti magic person.
Yeah, anti-magic magic caster. They also get their own use to sword play spell tree, which is a special spell tree that's going to be dedicated just for the spell blade, which anybody can use them, of course, but it'll be one that'll be released with the spell blade.
But they'll be the ones that'll get the special reserved spells from that.
Yeah. Yep. And so, and they're a finesse class because they use their weapons to cast magic. So it's a finesse caster. Cooler.
All right. Now I'm hearing all this, and all I'm hearing is I get to live out my dream of playing a Bayonetta-inspired character.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's people come up with all sorts of additional ideas for it, and I'm just like, cool. I'm just giving you the stuff, and I made it.
I am going to figure out how to
so.
strap guns to her feet.
Yes,
it will happen.
Please do. There's rules to do so. So go ahead. That's any crazy idea you have. I'm proud to say Veil of the Void can encourage it. So.
Oh boy, that's going to be a lot of fun. Again, that's a class I've never heard. That's going to be in the works. So that was a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that's
I don't even think that even appeared on any of the stretch goals in the Kickstarter.
No, this is. I mean, I have
the only one was like the negotiator, which
the negotiator, which we did get because I knew people were going to want the negotiator because why not? It's such a talkative class. You got to have one of those.
I am as big of a fan as I am of cool damage dealers and tank classes. I am all about that support, whether they're in combat or out of combat.
Yep. Well, the fun part too is most of your abilities as classes can be used out of combat in some way too. Just gotta think of them. But the negotiator especially is just like, I'm just gonna talk everybody to death. And if they don't want to listen to me, well, too bad.
I imagine the negotiator will be the go-to party leader.
Oh yeah, well he naturally became the party leader of the group that I'm playing testing with everything. So
probably not even through lack of trying by everybody else. He just out-talked them.
No, he just out-talked everybody into it.
And he just convinced everybody to let him be the leader.
Yeah, the negotiator also has the specialization called the captain. So he pretty much just took that and he's like, I'm the captain now, guys.
One thing led to another.
Mm-hmm. But no, I have an additional 8 classes that I already have built. I have about 32 additional races.
Wow.
So I have a bunch of miniature releases planned for the next 2 years before it'll all eventually be compressed into another new expansion alongside another expansion. So
That that is the thing I actually wanted to add to ask. If you had, well, this is kind of a two-part question. Do you have any plans on making anything else, or is everything, from here on out just going to be further additions to Veil of the Void?
well, I'm glad you asked because I have a whole wall that looks like a murder, like where you're trying to find the murderer of
Oh,
different releases and
so you had so you got like a whole cock board with like
Yep, with the strings
the
pointing to
red
other things.
strings leading from one thing to another.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the very next thing I'm working on alongside all of these the RPG expansions
Mm-hmm.
is going to be a tabletop miniature game because I love Warhammer and
So
stuff like that.
you're gonna make like a war game?
A war game that uses it's pretty much a war game that uses a dumbed down, simpler version of the RPG rules, so that way you can play it by itself as a really fun, because I've tested the rules a lot already, as a really fun miniatures game.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to do, let's say, a large scale battle in the RPG game, you can just immediately transfer over all your heroes and stuff into that large scale battle frame.
And have like an easy
Huge army, easy access. Yeah.
it was like have like an easy point conversion, so you can make a
Yep.
make balanced army layouts.
Yep. So that'll be easy. But yeah, the fun thing is you can make your RPG hero.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have an app that we're working on eventually, not just yet, but it's gonna convert your stats
Mm-hmm.
into the miniature so that you can play your hero as a miniature in either the miniature game or in the upscaled RPG version.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
it is nice to know that like as much as people would really love just to have Veil of the Void content just rapid fire deployed, it's still kind of nice to know that you do have other things in the works for people to enjoy as well.
yeah, and well, I am going to be releasing probably a race or a class every month.
Every month.
I'm planning every month to 2 months because I have a lot for the next year and a half. So,
That's fine.
but I want people to
And of
have
course,
some fun.
this is also not including my own ideas that I've been brainstorming with you.
Oh yeah, no.
Uh,
So
because I've been having quite a few of those.
yeah, no, that's a good thing. I like people telling me their brainstorm because it's fun, and then it could be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, let's work on something. But yeah, I have a lot of releases planned, things to keep people interested in it, and things to just give people additional ideas for what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, they're all going to be lore based as well, and story built. So they're going to be releasing, and one thing will lead to the next, will lead to the next. But other than
All
the
right.
miniatures game and all the expansions for the RPG, I also have a card game that I'm working on and a board game, all of them set within the same universe.
Really?
Yeah, because I love all tabletop games.
Well, hey, it sounds like to me I'd be having you on a lot more often.
Well, we'll see once those come out. But
We'll see, and if not for interviews, I'll probably be covering a lot of your games, apparently.
hey, awesome. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. I like that. So, but yeah, so I have a lot. I have a lot of stuff planned. Now it's just to get the money and to get the time to do so. So,
Oh, yeah. So, I guess if you consider yourself up to sharing any of this, but what out of all the expansions and races and classes that you do plan on showing off, which one would you be excited the most as you'd be willing to talk about?
which one will be excited the most? Let's see. Well, there's going to be the very first expansion after all the little miniature ones
Mhm.
is called the Dark of the Void, and it's like all of the sinister like classes, specs, and races and stuff.
Oh,
Um,
so a lot more. Let's not say wholly evil, but more
yeah, more
evil-like
evil
kind of
like
things.
sinister like classes. Yeah, there's like a
Yeah.
void mage who uses like really dark magic to manipulate gravity or to like suck out souls and things like that. But then there's also different things that are going to be like that. But it's going to be like almost like a space horror type stuff because we have the updated Dalkindrith will be in that one, and then
Oh yeah, and, you actually gave me that PDF, and Devil Cancer's are actually pretty interesting.
oh yeah, my icy vampire boys.
Or as I call them, the
The
spice
spice,
vampires.
spice vampires, yeah.
The spice vampires.
But yeah, they'll be in there. There's the we haven't come up with a name with them, but she calls the noble who's helping me write this one. She calls that monster the closet monster because it pretty much makes it so whatever you want them to look like is what they look like to you.
So it's like a bunch of race of boogeymen.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there's a were race that transforms into different monsters and stuff.
Oh, that'd be kind of
But
nice.
then in that expansion, there's going to be a whole new list of like horror themed space monsters. There's going to be a bunch of specs for each class, a bunch of new magic types, and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But the one that I'm really looking forward to, which is the one after that, is the space pirates, because there's going to be a whole fun stuff of space pirate themed stuff coming in that third expansion.
Oh, that's gonna be nice.
Yeah,
And especially considering you kind of teased a little bit about that because you were asking people about different gang organizations to
yeah.
their own design to add in.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, a lot of it will be pirate gangs that are running around, but there's also like a bug race that is like they pretty much fly in biotechnical ships that look like pirate ships through space. But they're giant bugs and stuff. And then there's like a race that you can play that's sirens that swim within space and like lead ships to black holes and stuff.
So they basically swim through the air, kind of deal.
Yeah, they swim through like these veil slipstreams and stuff.
That's actually a pretty neat aesthetic.
Yeah, and then there's like a whole coral reef made in space. So it's like this weird.
I would love to see some artist interpretation of the guys. I bet that would look pretty.
Oh yeah, no,
that would look beautiful.
My artist is excited. But
need to get some light fish in there.
Yes, I know. That was one of the things I was like, ooh, that would actually be a good one to include into that one. Is your light fish.
Yeah, the light fish would be perfect for that.
Yeah, so that's some of the next two expansions that are on their way. I have most of them written halfway so far, but by the time they come out, it'll all be released and ready. So of course. But.
And speaking of Noble, I also wanted to ask like how involved the other two in your team are when it comes to making the game. Do they come up with ideas of their own to put in that change stuff every now and again?
So they come up with some stuff every now and then. Depending on like if they have a really cool idea, they'll tell me something and I'll be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Let's figure out where to add that. But most of it I write and then I give it to them to give their opinions, and then they'll give me their opinions and I'll fix what's broken.
So their involvement in actually creating the thing is kind of minimum.
Yeah, it just depends. Like the Thaumatech was completely reshifted because Noble asked me some questions about the Thaumatech. And because she asked the questions, I was like, yeah, this would make a much better thing. So we worked together.
Because that was one thing after I looked a little bit into the second edition, and you pointed out some differences. I kind of noticed that within the lore of the game, it's supposed to be like you're doing magic through the use of technology, but with the Thaumatech, it looks like it was pure magic. Very little tech was actually involved.
That was one of her things. So now it is a lot of tech that manipulates that magic. Which
is an aesthetic I kind of like. I kind of like the idea of using incredibly advanced technology, and it looks like you're doing magic because it's literally using tech for magic.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of a neat image.
Yeah, and no, it's really cool. And so that's kind of how I wanted it to be, but I can never think of a good way to do it until she started asking questions, which is why I like when people ask questions. And because she asked those questions, I was like, oh, this is great. I will stay up again until 5 o'clock for some reason now working on it.
I'd imagine through the expansions, a lot of the core document probably get changed with some upgrades to make things more like can gel a lot better together.
Yeah, of course. As time progresses, that's how it goes when more people give opinions and more people start seeing it and stuff. But I like where it's at right now. I think it leaves a definite beautiful little combo between the two genres and lets people go as crazy as they want.
And the other thing, may not be much of a question, but I just want to say I definitely appreciate your level of involvement with the community that you're kind of making. You're always very enthusiastic and going onto Twitter and the Discord, talking with people, talking about ideas, this, that, and the other, and even going so far as to even like integrate ideas that people want to see within the game itself. Like, if I remember right, you spent like a good week or even more of just collecting ideas that other people were giving you, and even putting them into the into the actual book, and giving like proper credits and everything.
Yeah, no, I really wanted a part of having a living universe is having people that are also giving their ideas to it.
Hmm.
And I always thought that would be so cool to actively include others in the creation of the book and in their releases and in stuff, because I love people's ideas. Like you have some really good ones that are terrifying, and I feel so bad for anybody that's going to have to fight them. Um,
Fear the swamps.
yes, and that one's in there, and you're fully credited, and it gives you the links to your Twitter and
Twitter.
everything too, so they can find you. Um, but everything's in there,
They'll
and it's
probably be
all in there.
disappointed. I mostly do shit posts.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, it's completely
But
fine.
yeah, no, I have all of your
I have definitely been more of
listed.
a
So.
troll. I've been more of a troll lately.
It's okay. There's people that are trolls. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, and I really wanted to make sure I include people's ideas because it's a community game. It's a community universe. So it's not just me creating it, but it's me including everybody's idea because that's more fun.
And since all of the other board game ideas you do want to get into is also pretty much going to be within the same universe, it will also be kind of cool to see all the stuff the community has made for the RPG also appear in those other games.
Yeah, yeah, and they definitely will be in there too. And
Like I imagine my Hemo Vipers being a pretty scary force to have to deal with as a party within the RPG, but then you go into the war game, you
yeah,
fighting in a swamp area, and then oh, roaming hazard, there's a contagion of Hemo Vipers flying around.
yeah, I was actually already I had some stats worked up for them so that you could actually use them. So in the war game that I'm working on, I have a community group.
Hmm.
So it's like there's different factions that you can play based on like the different factions of the universe, so like the Elan and prototype groups and blah blah blah. But there's also the community based stuff which can be used by any army.
Hmm.
And I was working on some stats for the Hemo Viper to be used as a 7 or 6 or 7 model group that just charges after people.
Yeah, he's like roll a random event in a contagion. If Hemo Virus show, I was like, okay, just don't be within the same area. You might be fine, but they do roam around, so be careful.
Yeah, so it's stuff like that, including the community's ideas, and making sure one that I actually can include them because I'm not going to just steal someone's ideas, but two, I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I mean, if we ever did make the Hemo Vipers a model and you play the game, I would definitely send you a whole model set so you could use it for free because it was your idea,
Oh, I
and
would
stuff like that.
love
So
to own some Hemo Vipers and hire Hemo Viper models. That would be
yeah,
great to have lying
but
around.
yeah, so it's stuff like that. I want to include the community in everything that gets done, because it's more fun, in my opinion, to have a whole group of people creating a universe.
And that is
Together.
and while I'm having my ideas of my own expansions for this game, that's one thing I definitely want to do is further develop the Emo Viper, because I do have a whole backstory and lore for the entire species connected with a certain something something.
Exactly, and the best
Yeah.
part too is like once you actually get the book, which shouldn't be too long now. I had to delay it a little bit because of printing, but um,
Hmm. And you say it's going to be like towards the middle of August. The book is going to be coming out.
that's if everything goes wrong. I wanted to make sure that I gave myself ample time.
Mhm.
In theory, the book should be here Monday. So as long as everything looks good, I'll try to get it shipped off on Tuesday at the latest, which means that everybody should be getting it, which I should be able to probably ship it before the 13th or 14th. So a little bit sooner than I guessed, but just in case things go wrong, I don't want to have to delay it again. So
Fair enough. And it's starting to look about that time. How much time do you think you have left for this live stream?
I should probably be good. I think my family said that we can wait a little bit, so I can be here for a little bit longer.
Okay,
Probably for like 5 or for like another hour, maybe at most.
another hour. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so you might actually make it through this whole live stream. So
yeah.
Do you want to take a 5 to 10 minute break here, get something to drink, use the
Sure,
bathroom,
yeah.
stretch
I'd love
around?
to get some water refill. So
Oh, okay. Well,
talking a lot drives your throat very dry, especially when you're sick. So
all right, that's fair. All right, folks, we're going to take a little 5 to 10 minute break. When we get back, I'll pull up the demo book and we'll talk a little bit more about the game and how it operates.
awesome.
All right, we will be right back, folks. Okay, I'm at least back a little bit. Oh, we still got people in the chat. Hey, Neo, how you doing? How are you doing? Better start.
Okay, sorry, I'm back.
Yeah, it's over. I just got back myself.
Perfect.
Let's do a little retweet here to make people help people know we're still going on. Maybe spread it to a few more people.
See here.
Not
Oh,
not very active in the chat. That's understandable. I took like a month off because of real life issues. My activity probably died down a little bit. Not that I had
yeah, that
much to begin
happens.
with.
Well, it takes a while for YouTube to do anything too. Just like with the algorithms and stuff, it's really hard to get through
And
YouTube.
especially since
Everything.
I'm not even bothering with monetizing myself, so YouTube doesn't have much incentive to dish me out.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
big
if we're never
issue.
gonna make any money off of you, we don't care.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like okay, whatever. As long as you get to have fun with it, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's my thing. So I'm only doing this because I'm having fun and hopefully do some help to the some indies.
Yeah,
Which for the most part, everyone kind of appreciates what I do.
that's good. Yeah, it's been fun to be on here so far.
Have you ever done any other interviews outside of this, or no?
Well, I've done a few interviews in regards to the paper interviews, like people where they would ask me questions
Oh,
and then
actually writing down, but like no
yeah.
video format.
But then so I did that one. I did another podcast the other day,
Oh.
and then my very first one was actually when it was about 9 months ago. The very first one I did,
Hmm.
which was with Ascension Stories, which is this awesome group, and they were really interested in the book, and so they had me on one of their video podcast thingies, which I was super nervous for because I was like, oh, okay, I've never done this before. But
That's fine. The first person I ever interviewed, um, it was the first person I have ever interviewed in my entire life, and it was also his first interview ever. So that was kind of a unique
oh, that's
experience.
fun.
Oh, yeah, and I think we did both did pretty well. I just wish at the time I had as good of a mic quality as I do now. Even though even with that, to now it's still kind of crap. But it was
Yeah,
way worse. It was way worse before.
yeah. I don't know how good mine is right now because I'm not using my normal podcast mic. Because I didn't have anywhere to set it up today.
And still sounds good.
Okay, good.
So we'll call this as officially back. We get right into things. Before we pull up the demo book, I actually wanted to ask you if you plan on doing like any promo work for Veil of the Void. I definitely know you've on your own YouTube channel. You kind of done some audio logs of some lore
Hmm.
characters within the universe. Are
Hmm.
you plan on doing any more?
Yeah, eventually. I've been so busy right now since it's pretty much just been me working on all of it. Now that I'm like, okay, I'll get to the rest of it here shortly. But I do plan on doing a lot more. I have a Patreon level set up too, where other people will get to be some of the characters in the promos and stuff. Um, and I have a bunch of stuff planned. So once the book actually gets out and I have more time to focus on that stuff, I will
Mm-hmm.
certainly get to work more on that sort of stuff coming along soon.
Any specific plans?
Uh, right now, for that kind of stuff, I'm not sure. I know that we're going to be releasing two new races soon on Patreon that don't really fit into the lore yet. And then shortly after those get put out there, I'll probably have, if anybody has that Patreon level or not, I'll just have another video coming out after that to explain the next step in the galaxy's exploration.
Oh, okay. And with that, we'll go right into the book that you gave me. Just got to screen share. There we go.
Yeah, it's still got
What
a
was
little
this?
bit of work to get done on it, but
Why aren't you letting me share? This is weird. Screen share. Okay, I never had this happen before where it refuses to screen share. That's weird.
Hmm.
Oh, there we go. Okay, now I got it. Hey, Infinity.
Woo!
All right. Here we go. I took the PDF that you gave me and converted to Google Drive here.
Okay.
So going to skip the table of contents because that part of this wasn't ready to show.
Yeah, I was throwing one together quickly last night because I've been working on a demo book, but it's really hard to reduce almost 300 pages down to 50. So it's like, what do I
Of course.
leave out? What do
And
I include?
and just to reiterate, the demo book that you have currently public is completely different than this one that you gave me. This is the second edition of the demo
Yeah,
book.
this one's the much more updated one.
Mm-hmm.
The one that's actually gonna have the proper rules and editing and stuff like that in it.
And along with the differences, there are some mechanical changes here and there,
Oh
and
yeah,
a new race was added into the demo book that wasn't there before, going from 3 to 4. And you also switched out a class for a different class.
yeah. Because like you were suggesting, it's better, to include the pretty much the magic, the like ranged, and then the melee type classes. So that way
Mhm.
we have those three in there. Plus, they're good classes. Fun.
Yeah, they are, and of course, we still understand that with all the different classes, they can go to any route. Any of those classes can go melee, ranged,
Yeah.
magic focus, but some are just naturally good at specific archetypes, just purely on what they're geared for.
Yeah, because at level 1, your class has a very unique special ability, and so the Field Knight's really good with melee. The Thaumatek's really good at magic, and then the Soldier's really good at ranged at level 1.
Yeah, so it's just to get everyone a feel for certain play styles that they can get used to, and then can further expand upon when the actual game releases and they get their hands on that.
Mhm.
So let's I guess for this part we can mostly just focus on again like the introduction, kind of get used to what everything is and how to I say like make a character. I guess you could probably do to be a pretty
Mhm.
good introduction to the game itself. So
Seems pretty good.
for here, as I say, you got the four races. You have the Celestia, the Exiled, the Humans, and the Prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do kind of appreciate these four because you know that they are pretty nice. You know, you got your staple, the humans. Then you have something that's sort of a staple in sci-fi, but it's done in like a very clever way. The prototypes, which are again kind of like robots, but you can choose between completely robotic or you could do the techno organic route, like biotech stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Sorry, just from my perspective, I was like, that's a cool idea.
yeah, it's basically a robot, but with a little twist to it.
Yeah,
It's pretty nice. Then you have the Celestia, which are basically star children, but instead of just a star, it's like an entire universe.
yeah, it's an entire universe swirling inside of a little body. So,
um, one of my friends when we were looking up the Celestia was like, you know, that sounds like being around that is going to be a lot of cancer.
just the cancer generator.
Yeah, so all that star radiation, very
Yeah,
very condensed. That's going to be basically a cancer field.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And those three were in the first edition of the demo book. So if someone looked at the first edition of it, they're probably very familiar with those three already. But the fourth one that was just added into the second edition is the Exiled, who are basically undead. Well, let's not mix words. They're basically undead, but they're also kind of cool in their own way.
Yeah, their characters, pretty much their existence is they're people who have been or beings that have come back from the realm of the dead as a new creation, pretty much.
Mhm.
And so it's like this new soul that has memories of those who have died placed into it.
So basically, more of a reincarnation kind of a thing.
Yeah, kind of like a reincarnation thing. But it's just I just added it because it was a really fun way to bring in a character that may have died from like another game setting, from like D&D or something, and bring them into this game setting. So you can still continue to play a character that died and just bring them into our multiverse version.
Mhm. And you can have like a whole party situation of, oh, you're Jim, but you're also not Jim.
You're Jim, but not. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly how it is. So it makes it's a really fun role playing class because you'll be sitting there like talking with someone will come up and recognize you kind of, and then you'll just be like, I have no clue who you are. But it just adds fun stuff too.
I have memories of the one named Jim, but I am not Jim.
Yeah, exactly.
Which could be a very interesting dynamic and have a pretty cool kind of character theme to it.
Yeah. Plus, you can walk through walls because you're a ghost. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's also a cool thing. And then, of course, you got the race path because with every single race, they sort of have like a heritage kind of a thing where you can like
Yeah.
choose like a certain faction. That's kind of a thing within the race where they do something a little bit differently.
Yeah. So they have their ancestral paths, which kind of like help you could have 4 humans, but all 4 humans could choose something different from the ancestral path and play different and be different characters. So it just adds a little bit more diversity when you're building a character.
It's just giving more power to the players, giving more
Yeah.
choices.
Yep. Although people have come back to me, they're like, "I love it, but I hate it because now I'm trying to sit here between the two that I like, and I'm trying to decide which one
I
I like."
love the choices, but I also hate the choices.
Yeah, that's the bad thing about choices. That's why I'd have such a difficulty playing this game. I'm like, I don't know.
That's
I don't
basically
know.
me in my house when I feel like I want to have a snack because I got so many snacks I don't know what to pick.
Yeah,
I'm hungry, but I don't know what I want to have.
and it all sounds good.
Everything sounds good.
That's exactly like that's why I'm releasing a changeling race so you can play every race, and
Ooh,
the mimics have a specialization later on that lets you play every class in the game. So I mean, if you're like me and you can't decide what to play, at least you can pick those two and play everything.
just play a changeling mimic, then you can be everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely kind of like that because as some of the people that follow me know, I'm going to be writing a comic book within a multi-series indie universe, and one of those books that does the initial launch for the universe is called Changeling. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I guess I could read that book to get hyped for the Changeling species.
Yeah, that would work.
Oh yeah. And of course, as we talked about before, we got the 3 classes. Before in the first edition, it was Field Knight, Thumb Attack, and Mimic, but now it's replacing Mimic with the Soldier class.
Mm-hmm. So Soldier is really cool because they're a cybernetically enhanced group that based on what weapons they're holding at the time, they get certain benefits and bonuses to using those more than other classes would.
Yeah, because the other classes already kind of get different benefits depending on what weapon they're using, but I did notice that the soldiers' actual abilities are different because of it.
Yeah, soldiers get like if you go the sniper class or if you're holding a sniper as a soldier, instead of getting the negatives of you have to stay still and you have to take a whole round to reload, sniper soldiers can move around the battlefield still and don't need to take their whole movement to reload a gun. They can just quickly do it because of their cybernetic enhancements.
Every time I think of a person who basically doesn't have the reload time detriment on a sniper rifle, I just start imagining Meet the Sniper from Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
Every time it does like the bolt action on the sniper rifle, he has like bullets between his fingers. He just flips them into the chamber.
Yep, that's pretty much how I imagine it too.
Yeah. Every single time I see that, that's what I always think.
Yeah, so soldiers are all about that, and the fun thing about soldiers too is they have a specialization called the Adapt Tech, and pretty much what that does is it consumes weapons and you can switch between them really fast as you attack, and so your bonuses at level 1 that you give stick when you're switching between those weapons. So it makes you just super good and flexible in combat.
Okay. Oh, and since y'all were talking about mimics in the chat, can I suggest something with mimic? It was kind of a thing I sort of noticed with it.
What's up?
For a class that's all about redirection and reflecting damage back to enemies. Early level, there isn't a whole lot of that with it, as well as with their specific like armor kind of thing, where like if you're wearing like no armor at all, you just automatically count as like medium armor, which I think you can optionally start off with anyways as a mimic. It was sort of a thing that just was weirded me out like a little bit, like for a sort of like a tank melee class that's all about redirecting. You would thought it'd be doing more stuff with that, and I'm even though I'm pretty much an amateur when it comes to making a tabletop game, I thought would it be more thematic where with their armor thing, where if they don't wear any armor, no, they're basically just wearing clothing, not only do they can act as if they're wearing medium difficulty armor, but also they can have like a base amount of damage they can reflect back to their enemies and not take damage themselves with that.
See, I used to have something like that, and then it was broken with the system. So I tried to make the mimic. It's a class now. Whenever they get hit, they can inflict stuff back at people.
Oh, okay.
And so the armor is there to kind of help you out if you don't want to get hit too much.
Mm-hmm.
But the physical misdirection, since it doesn't cost you any points to use anymore
Mm-hmm.
at all, it's just anytime you get hit, you get it automatically hit the thing back.
Okay.
Um,
So in the actual document, they actually do a little bit more of their theme.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's a
That's fair.
lot. They get a lot of bonuses. Like if they don't get, if a spell around them fails that's targeting them, they can
Mhm.
cast that spell back at the person. They
Oh,
can
okay.
move away from enemies during their turn if someone moves closer to them. They can attack when an ally attacks. They can prepare their turn to interrupt adversary turns.
Hmm.
Um, they can reduce damage they take by half, stuff like that. So they have a lot of ability to do stuff just with their level 1.
Okay,
Um,
that's fair enough because well, I'm operating on out of date information, but it just seemed like whenever, as far as I remember, when I first looked up Mimic in the first edition of the demo, they didn't really live up to their name all too much.
yeah. So Mimic is it's like a defensive class that's also really good at distributing and copying their allies as well.
Hmm.
So like at level 2, they can manipulate where their skill point bonuses are in.
Hmm.
And then they can create illusions that look like themselves to copy their stuff later on. So as they progress, they get a lot of special mimic type stuff as
Right.
well. So from
And
what
and
I've
I-
noticed, they're pretty good,
and I
strong class.
still one day want to do that pacifist monk Mimic at some point because I
Oh
think
yeah,
that'd be a pretty fun play style.
yeah. No, that'd be a good way to do it. And pacifism is actually good in this world if you want to use it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I shall not attack, but if you attack me, I will reflect all of your damage back at you.
Yeah, if you attack me, you're gonna get hurt, buddy.
I'm not going to attack you. You're going to attack yourself.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun because it comes with that negative of you have to get hit, but at the same time you're hitting them for it. So it's just
Hmm.
constant illusion punching back when they hit you. And there's no
Yeah,
limit to how many times you can use it. So if an adversary has like 6 attacks and makes 6 against you, and all of them hit, you're also making 6 attacks back at it. So
yeah, it's a good way to cheese a multi hit system. It'd be
yeah,
pretty fun.
yeah. As long as you don't, you have enough health to survive.
Yeah, so long.
Yep.
In the other classes we got is of course the Phil Knight here. Phil Knight is your more classic upfront kind of damage dealer. They just get the benefit of oh yeah, they have jetpacks to charge them into battle instead of a warhorse.
Yeah. And they charge around the battlefield, dragging people along with them and attaching rockets to people and flinging them through the battlefield and stuff. It's mobile tank damage dealer.
And I have to check on something real quick. So mind telling them a little bit about Thaumatech?
Yeah. So Thaumatech. Thaumatech is a class that specializes in using these special elemental devices called USBs. So they're little technical devices that have a crystal built into them that help channel magical energy. And so Thaumatechs can place these USBs into their weapons and channel every magic that USB relates to. So if you have a fire USB and you plug that into your cord, you gain access to all of the magic under the fire spell tree based on your current level that you can cast. And so Thaumatech is a big enchanter class, all about manipulation of magic.
Right on. Sorry. My dad just got back home from work and he gave me his leftover lunch pizza.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's
And if from what I remember right, Thaumatech especially had a lot of rework done to it compared to the first edition.
yeah, a lot of rework.
Yeah, because like the USB thing wasn't even a
No,
thing.
it was originally stances. Based on the stances you took, you
Hmm.
would channel different things. But now instead, it's the USBs. And instead of getting rid of those stances, I merely transferred them over to work with the USBs. And so now at level 2, based on the USB you have in there, you can call down an ultimate ability that just uses that USB's power. So
Right on. And I just love the idea that so far into the future we're still using USBs.
yeah, I know, right? I know. Couldn't think of anything better. No, just I mean,
just USBs
I'm just
everywhere.
it's easy to pop in.
Oh man, it's been a while since my ITT days, but it's like Universal Software Buses or something like
Yeah,
that.
I don't know if it's software.
I know it's Universal something
It's
buses.
Universal. It's Serial. That's what it is.
Cereal,
Universal Serial Bus.
Universal cereal. Oh yeah, because it'll literally fit anything.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. That's why I was like, I knew it was something, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense, and it's something people can understand. I didn't want to just make something like
they want to do
weird.
they want to do too much techno babble.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who helps work on this from time to time, and he does all the technobabble stuff. So I'm like, I'll just wait because when he starts getting into technobabble, it's like real technobabble. So it's like, well, if I have a really hard time understanding it, sometimes I think I'm just gonna make it simpler. So
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, everybody knows what a USB is, and why not? Let's make it that.
I suppose next we go like HP and leveling, kind of. It can very much figure itself out because, but before we get into that, we need to talk about virtues, since a certain virtue helps out with HP, anyways.
Yeah.
So
Um,
there's 6 of these: power, finesse, vitality, mentality, judgment, and charm.
yep. Um, they're pretty standard ideas, because most RPGs nowadays use a
This is more like your strength, dexterity, speed, stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like that. So I just
Intelligence, wisdom, charisma.
yeah. So like judgment would be kind of like your wisdom, and intelligence would be kind of like your mentality, stuff like that. They different act differently in this game, but they're similar enough to where you can understand coming from any system kind of how to use it. But they're the ones that mainly determine how many dice you roll with as a base.
Oh, yeah, because that is one thing we'll have to get into soon, is specifically how the dice work.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, yes, they do very much affect your dice. And I would say before like I say about the dice before we get into that, is that the dice is pretty simplistic. Outside of a few special situations, all you're ever going to need is just multiple d6s.
Yep.
That's all you're ever going to need.
Yep. In fact, I think it does
I
that.
think there's like a few where you probably need to get like a dice roller because they're that unique, like a D3 and 1 or 2 things, and a D9 and like a handful.
Oh, so I actually removed those, so you don't even have to do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So now there's just specific. I made so the damages don't do that anymore, and if there is something that uses a D6, it explains it's a D6 and a D3, which a D3 is just you roll a 6, and a 1 or a 2 is a 1, a 2 or a 3 or 4 is a 2, and a 5 or a 6 is a 3. So
Yeah, okay.
everything in the game can be used with a D6 now, thankfully, pretty easily.
Thankfully.
Yeah. I like simplicity in my stuff.
Make it simple, stupid.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, when you were starting character creation, you get 3 points and everything automatically, and all of your virtues, just baseline 3. And
Yes.
if I'm right, in a couple, in like some races and maybe some classes or feats, you're probably going to have some negatives, but outside of that, you're always going to have a baseline of 3.
Yeah, it's always a baseline of 3, and then you get 5 points to invest between all 6 of them.
And you can't invest more than 2 times. Like out of those 5 points, you can't put like 3 into power.
Yeah, so the only way you would be able to get 3
Actually,
into power is if you're.
didn't that change? Because I thought you could put.
Hey, yeah, that also
No,
changed.
yeah. Because I remember last time, I think it was like you could invest no more than 3 points into a single virtue.
Yeah,
But
it's
now it's 2.
testing. Testing will do that.
Beta, always in flux.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it used to be you could put 3 in, and then by the time you would have a level 1 character, there were people who were starting with 9 points invested into a single virtue at level 1.
Oh yeah,
so,
that could get pretty busted.
yeah, that could be a little bit busted. Which I mean, the good thing about this game is if something's busted, the GM also gets to break everything and punish you for it at the same time if they want to. But
Oh, what was
but,
that? You have an absurdly high beginning stat level 1. Okay, everything is like everything's at impossible difficulty. Have
yeah.
fun.
So, but there's good ways to balance it. So it's not really punishing players. It's more balancing it out so the player still has some difficulty when they do stuff. But
Yeah, it still allows them to have fun, but still make things a bit of a challenge.
yeah. So at least there's that tension in rolling in the dice because that's what you kind of want. Is like, okay, I'm probably going to succeed this, but then if you roll low, you're like, oh crap, am I actually going to succeed this check? It's like, but yeah, it used to be 3, but now the highest you can get up to is 6 points invested at the start if you have a bonus point from your class or your race that you choose. So a
Right.
little bit
And,
more balanced.
and coming up with how many dice you can roll is also pretty easy because depending on what you're trying to do, whatever virtue it uses, like whether you use power or finesse, you'll use however many number of points within that virtue equal to your dice. So
Yeah,
I think as it says here, if you have 6 points invested into a virtue, you roll a 66 on the check.
yeah. So, so yeah, that's how those affect for that, and that's just the base. So skills and stuff later on add more bonus dice or auto hits or things to it, but virtues do determine your base dice pool that you start with.
hmm And and speaking of skills, we get into the skills and expertise stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it says here at level 1, you start with 4 skill points to invest. I don't think that one changed. I think it was
No,
4
that's the
skill
same.
points.
Mm.
Yeah, and we can get into like all the different kind of skills and a few examples afterwards. But you cannot invest more than 2 points into one skill.
Yes.
So sort of has like a limitation, just like the virtues, but just a lot more narrow.
Yeah, and the those are kind of just again just purely for balancing issues and stuff, just so you're not killing everything instantaneously, which
Yeah,
it just
but
balances it.
but it's also just about as much fair because not only can you level up and invest more points afterwards, but as you do it more often and succeed, you're leveling it up along the way.
Yes, and then at every even level as well, you also gain a skill point, so your levels actually mean something as you progress. So there's all sorts of ways to get skill points. That's why you kind of start low, and there's a limit.
Uh-huh. And then we have the expertise, which is more like your feats from like D&D. It's just stuff that your character can really do that can affect gameplay a little bit.
Yeah, and
And I'm not sure if this
excuse me,
changed. It says that you can choose 4 at character creation. I'm not sure if that changed or not.
no, I think that was in there still. But you pretty much there are 4 expertise points that you get. Some of them cost like 2 expertise points and stuff, but
hmm
for the most part, each one is unique. And of course, you can also make your own with your GM if you don't like any of the one that are in the book.
Yeah, then that is true. Um. Okay, and we go into background, which is more of a personal thing. It doesn't really offer any mechanical benefits as far as I'm aware of, but though it can if you and the GM talk about it a bit, it'll give you something possibly.
Yeah, well, I've had a few friends who, based on their background, I'm like, that's a really cool background. You really went into it and gave me some ideas. So here, you'll start with an extra expertise that's based on what your background was. Like one of my friends, the lizard guy, he was a slave at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was really scarred on his back from like getting whipped by the slave
Slavers.
traders and stuff.
Mhm.
And so now he takes less damage when getting hit from the back because he's been so scarred from it and stuff like that.
So
So,
basically, dead nerves in the back.
yeah. So it's like the background is there. Most of the time, it's just to create a really cool character, and then there's the 3 simple questions there to ask you how to build one. But that's pretty much what it is.
Who were they before their adventure? Why did they leave? And what does your character want?
Mm-hmm. The
Very,
3 simple
very
questions.
Very
Yep.
simple.
But with those 3 questions, I've created a bunch of good characters. It's very, very simplistic. Like all you need to know is what were they doing before, why did my character leave, and then what do they want, and then there you go. Big character progression right there.
Oh yeah. And then, as we said before, we'll get into the dice a little bit later, and well, here's the dice. So we get to talk about how the dice system works.
Mhm.
So let's see here. Anytime you perform a skill check or attempt an attack, roll dice to determine the outcome. Every check uses a standard D6 die or D6. Numbers 5 and 6 are a hit, 1 and 2 are a miss, and 3 and 4 are neutral. Now, when me and my friends first like read into this, we like really like thought about it for a bit, and they were like, "Well, 3 and 4s maybe neutrals, but they don't help you with succeeding. So, in all but name, they contribute to failing."
Yeah.
Yeah.
They contribute to failing, but they at least don't make you critically fail.
At
If they're
least,
there.
and that's like when me and my friends decided threes would count as a fail but not a critical fail, and fours would count as success but not a critical success. To
Mhm.
sort of make things a bit simpler for people to understand. But of course, I imagine that'd be more of a DM specific kind of rule.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
why they're there, so the team can make it however they want. All the rules are suggestions. I merely have given you ideas about how they work.
The manual, they be more of a guideline.
Exactly.
I think this might have changed wording a little bit. A natural rolled 6 on the check is called a blessing. Cannot be affected by any negative effects. A natural 1 is a curse and cannot be. I think that changed like a little bit. I'm not sure what exactly is, but that just feels different.
I can't remember. I don't know. I've changed so many rules that like I can't even keep track of them anymore.
But speaking of criticals, it kind of explains right here. If you roll 5 or more hits, which are the 5 and 6s, it's a critical hit. 5 or more misses, which is the 1 and 2, it's a critical miss, which doesn't exactly mean you critically fail or succeed, but I imagine you've changed a lot of flavor text or make things a lot easier, a lot harder to do.
Yeah, so there's actually, that's a very simplified list, which is why I was like, I don't know. It was so difficult to make the demo book. How much do I leave in? How much do I not? Because the rules.
I imagine the actual manual explains this in a lot more detail.
There's like 2 pages explaining critical misses and what if you roll this check versus this one.
Ooh.
So there's like a critical success is when you roll a critical hit and you succeed the check. So that's like a really good thing. But if you succeed the check but roll a critical miss, you've gotten a success with failure, which means you succeed at what you're doing, but something else bad's going to happen at the same time. So the critical hits and miss give you like a lot of. They either make
it's got like a whole range of outcomes.
Yeah, so I explained every outcome in there more in depth, but that's the very simplified version of it right there.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Now we talk about the dice pool, which is going to be the most satisfying thing to see in action while playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
After investing the 5 points into your virtue, you add the additional points you gain from your race. This may bring a virtue at character creation above 5 total points. These numbers represent your base dice pool that you roll with during checks. Okay, that talks about how you can't invest more than 2 points into a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's like a little example, which is a pretty nice one. Make a field knight and invest your virtue points to achieve the following totals: a power of 5, finesse of 3, vitality of 4, mentality of 4, judgment of 3, and charm of 4. If you performed a power check, which if I remember right, is also what you use to attack.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you would start with a base of 5d6.
Yeah, 6-sided dice.
Mm-hmm. So it'll be like because you got like the power, which is 5, so that's a 5d6, and then field knight. Well, wait, that's a base of 5d6. Well, is that like a typo?
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be replace the. It was supposed to say instead of the
because I think your example in the first one was still operating on you put 3 and not 2. So
yeah, that's why I was like, it's still got a little bit of.
That confused me a little bit there.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I copied it over wrong.
Positive dice pool total can never exceed 17. Yes. Divide in 10 base virtue dice, 5 bonus die, and 2 auto hit dice. Yeah, guys, you got auto hits and auto misses, which are a thing. Cannot exceed 5 bonus dice or 2 auto hit dice at any time. Your negatives can never go above 5 auto miss dice. Now, I have a feeling when you get like 2 auto hits, you're basically adding an additional 2 dice that just are automatic 6s. Meanwhile, with like the auto miss dice, like what was that? Is that also additional dice that just are in 1s, or do you take like 5 out of your pool and put them on 1?
Yeah, it explains a little bit later, but so auto hit and auto miss dice are just bonus dice that you add on the side. You do not roll.
Okay.
And they cannot be affected by anything. They can't be affected by rerolls. So, for instance, if something gives you 5 auto miss dice, you're gonna critically fail or critically miss one of your checks, even if you succeed, like regardless of what you do.
Mm-hmm. It's just not going to be as bad of a thing.
Yeah. So if you roll with that many, you're like, okay, please let me get a bunch of positives. because there is multi-critting in this game as well, so there can be really
Oh
bad stuff
boy.
that happens. Yeah.
And here it talks a little bit about skill point. I believe they're called, or they call
Yeah.
something else.
There's skill points. Yeah.
Yeah, skill points. This is basically what you invest into skills. You start off with 7 of them, and
Yeah.
uh,
They can have 7 points invested into them at most.
yeah, at most, like you cannot go above 7. But I imagine at level 1, you cannot invest so many points within a certain skill.
Yeah. 2 at the most. So
2 at the most. Okay. So, and with every single one, each one of them gets a benefit. Like the one skill point adds 1 pip to a die, which, if I remember right, is basically you basically look at a dice whose roll you don't like and say, okay, that one gets a +1.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 skill point is an additional bonus die to roll on the check, which is pretty good.
That's always really good.
3 skill point, re-roll a fail check once per round, which can be a do or die situation, or
Yeah.
a do and better do situation, or a die or die situation.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, do I want to re-roll here because I have a chance of getting worse? But at the moment, I have a critical fail, so maybe it's a good chance to re-roll.
I'd rather fail than critical fail.
Yeah.
Then you get the 4, which replaces the first one, which just adds an additional +1 to the same or different dice. You either give a dice +2 or 2 different dice +1.
Yeah.
Which can be also a very do or die situation.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes a lot of my testers will use their pips to affect their 2s, because 2s can be affected by numbers, but 1s can't. But 2s also count towards critical fails. So sometimes they'll add that 1 pip just so they don't fail.
So sort of reverse it.
Yeah. So sometimes they're like, okay, let me just waste my pip here.
Yeah. But well, the thing is, can you do that every single time, or is it a very limited number of times?
So you can add a pip to a die once per round. So all of these affect it once per round.
Okay, once per round. All right.
Yeah. It has that on the other one. It just doesn't have it in this one for some reason.
Fair enough. Then at 5 skill points, it replaces 2 skill points where you do an additional bonus die, so you can do 2 bonus die on a check. Then at 6, you reduce difficulties by 1 level, excluding attacks, which I think would be a godsend for many people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's impossible difficulty? Well,
I have a chance.
Not anymore. It's 1 down, so now I have a chance.
I can at least get 1 more.
And then at 7 skill points, the maximum, you get a unique skill effect. Now, I don't think the first edition had anything talking about what these unique skill effects could possibly do. Does the second edition here talk about?
It does not either, no.
Okay, so we have to wait until we get the actual book to see what the unique skill effects are.
Yeah, you gotta get something.
Okay, need to give some reason for them to buy your book, right?
And there's a lot of reasons, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty much something like one of the 7 level 7 abilities for Speechcraft is you can during your off times create something that might be more advantageous to give you bonuses to your skill point or to your Speechcraft checks later on. So like if you create like you're going to a town or something, you can create like a passport or diplomat's badge or something like that.
Right.
And help you out. So those are kind of the examples of what happens at level 7 when you get those.
Okay. And we're got to the point where we talk about auto hits and auto misses, which we've kind of already explained before. Where if you get an auto hit, it's an automatic. You just keep it on a 6 and then roll all the other dice, and then with an auto miss, you just keep it on a 1 and then roll the other dice. And so if you got an auto hit or auto miss, it will count towards your critical counter.
Yeah.
Which can be incredibly great and incredibly awful.
Yeah. No, that's the thing is auto hits when you get like there's a bunch of abilities and stuff that give you auto hits in this game based on your class and what you do, but there's also a bunch of adversaries and negative effects that can give you auto misses. So everything's fine and dandy until you get that auto miss.
Then that's where the fun stops.
Yeah, we were in a campaign with my friends the other day, and I had a spellcaster because none of them are good at countering spells at all because none of them have magic. And they all used all of their ability, all of their determination to prevent this one ability from going off because it would give them 3 auto misses. They are terrified of auto misses.
I can just imagine everyone having a grand old time, and then like, okay, y'all better do this thing. Yeah, okay, as y'all do this, uh, add in 4 auto miss dice. Then everyone's face just drops.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the moment you say auto miss, everybody's like, what?
What?
Why? Why
Hold
would you
on,
do this?
hold on, wait a minute. I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. It's fun to see how much more failure comes when you give them even just 2 auto miss dice.
Oof. And then speaking of failures and successes, we see here the difficulty system,
Mhm.
which which again I kind of enjoy. It scales pretty nicely. It gives you a reason to stack up those dice outside of just satisfaction of having multiple dice rolls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like um considering like all the dice that you are rolling, it'll this will count towards like how many dice need to actually succeed as individual rolls for you to pass the check entirely. Like
Mhm.
easy, 2 of those dice need to succeed at least. Average, at least 3 of them need to succeed, and so on and so forth, to all the way up to impossible, which is at 10. Now, I believe this also changed because I think before, like impossible was like 12 dice.
I don't remember. But I don't know if it was over 12. I can't remember.
I think I remember it being 12 because like impossible was the only one that broke free from the every single rating. Had like just one additional success because impossible had like you needed like say impossible was 12. The next the one immediately below was unforgiving, and to succeed that one you needed 10. Impossible was like 2 above. Yeah,
Oh.
it was like the only one that broke that.
Yeah, it was something like that. I don't know. I think I changed it because I tried to throw an impossible check against one of my players the other day, and they re-rolled like 7 times,
Damn.
and they didn't roll. They were rolling with 17 dice, and they did not roll anywhere near 12, like 10 or 15 times, I think, altogether. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I should roll it down just a little bit because he was at least able to roll 11 dice once out of all that time. So I'm
Well,
like,
I mean, hey, the difficulty setting definitely lives up to its name.
yeah, no, it's very impossible for them to do the check, but I also still wanted there to be, at
A
least
chance.
somewhat of a chance that they'll get it.
And I also like this little tidbit right here. You cannot succeed a check for which you do not have the required number of dice. So like let's say you have like a 5, you do like 5d6. Well, then you can't do anything challenging and above.
Mhm.
You just physically cannot do that. As I said before, I definitely breach. I guess that's entirely realistic. There's just something's too complex for you to try and attempt.
Yeah, like the example says, if you roll 3 dice and no bonuses on a programming check, you cannot succeed it in a tough programming check. But if you roll with +1 bonus die and an auto hit, then you have a chance to succeed this check. So
Yeah, you definitely need to keep track of all your dice to see what is and is not possible to do.
Mhm. And the very nice thing that we have now is on the character sheet, the new revamped, like completely redone character sheet. Um, in the skill section, it has how many dice you roll with for each of those skill checks.
Oh, so it
Um,
has like a little counter
yes,
counter.
it has a counter, so you can take all of your expertise and your virtue dice and everything, and just write it there so that oh, I don't even have to count. I know based on my bonuses, this is how many I roll with.
That's very nifty.
Yeah, it's a nice addition.
And then we got this also this other little tidbit here where if you cannot succeed a skill check and have no skill points invested into the skill, you may perform an advantageous failure action. This allows you to take an advantageous failure roll to cause a smaller effect and gain a successful roll in the check. Which within this example is basically like, okay, you want to program these turrets to shut down, but you can't do it because it's too complicated. What you can instead do is take the failure advantages and instead have the turret fire literally everybody because the friend or foe system is haywire now.
Yeah, so I really like that addition because it's like, well, I don't know how to do this, but maybe what if I do this? And so your character learns a little bit, but they've also failed. They didn't accomplish what they needed to.
They it's just with examples like that, it's like instead of taking something out completely, you just made a chaos hazard.
Yeah. But at least it's not just targeting you.
Yeah, at least now there's a chance they'll fire on their own allies.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can work out. At least the benefit with that is that optimally your allies have cover against the turrets, but the enemies don't.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
That is
the
the thing.
enemies are more focused on you than the turrets behind them that should be shooting for them.
Yeah, so that's why it's called an advantageous failure. It
Yeah,
failed, but it's at least somewhat in your favor.
it failed, but it did something useful.
Yep. So I like that rule for it. I think it adds a little bit of flavor and just good effects to the game. Makes sense that your character can't succeed at something if they're not really good at they don't understand how to succeed at it.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we got like the other alternatives to checks, like the group checks, which is basically the difficulty checks, except the entire team can attempt it.
Yep.
The entire team like adds all their stuff together.
Yeah, adds all their negatives, adds all their positives, subtracts from it, and if they beat the check, then they're good.
Yep. And then the one that's a bit more different is the contested checks, where it's basically virtue versus virtue against the target, and just whoever wins like a freaking like arm wrestling match between the dice ultimately wins the check.
Yeah, and that one's I really love contested checks. I use that one a lot because I like using those more than contested check or than difficulties. And there was one where this player was trying to resist this like Eldritch Mind Wipe ability. And so he would roll, but he kept tying with the adversary. And anytime you tie, you guys re-roll until there's a victor. And so there was just this back and forth of them both because they tied like 6 times in a row. I don't know how it worked.
I remember one time I was playing a homebrew sci-fi campaign with some friends. I was the DM. One of the players was a was an android warbot,
Yeah.
and he was going against what's called an Oroku. It's basically just a space orc.
Okay.
And with how the space orcs operate, is that they are limited to a confined limit to their physical strength because they just keep growing stronger and stronger as they overcome challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that android got into an arm wrestling match with an Oroku to try and trick it into selling it in its Navy service for a cheaper price, and that got very heated.
Yeah. And
Like there was it's like you start at the middle, then you got one success will get you halfway down, then another success will get you almost down, then the third and final success was slam the hand down, and that thing was going back and forth almost constantly.
Yeah, so the contested check just does that so well. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. It builds so much tension because, like, oh crap, now we're tied. It's like, oh, and now he's somehow pressed in the blade a little bit closer to your neck. And it's like, oh crap, oh well, you've managed to push it back a little bit, and then it's like you keep going until someone.
It is a very good way to visualize what's happening through the dice.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I make my people do that,
and
a lot.
also and also my friends have a like an inside joke where every time we do anything closely related to contested checks, they start doing like the Pirates of the Caribbean theme.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Exactly, that's perfect.
So I can imagine that's going to happen a lot during contested check.
Yeah, no,
that may make a comeback.
Yeah, there was one where a mimic was like he got attacked and he was repelling, which is something it talks about later on. But he tied with the defender, and then he re-rolled again, and so instead of him repelling it, now the other guy's blade is coming towards him, and he's like, "Crap, this is what I wanted." And then they tied again, and they had to re-roll. So it just adds a lot of fun.
I think that may be a friend of mine in the chat right there that played tabletop games with. Always nice to see them pop up.
Oh yeah.
And we go like a little bit more into this, like how the rounding works. I kind of like how you just flat out state how rounding works just across the board.
Yep.
Because with some games, rounding may vary depending on the situation. But here's like, nope, always round up, no matter what.
Always round up.
Always round
players,
up.
but screws the players at the same time.
Everything's rounded up.
Yep. I like simplicity.
Oh yeah. Then we go into attacks here, which we got like an armor system which operates pretty much like the difficulty checks because again you could be doing power or finesse or if you're doing spells like whatever your spell
Hmm.
casting virtue is going to be. But
Hmm.
it's basically like the same kind of system. Light armor is easy, medium is average, heavy is hard, and reinforced is tough, and it corresponds with up here. So heavy armor is hard difficulty. So to hit someone with heavy armor, you basically have to make 4 successes in order for the attack to hit.
Hmm.
Which also pretty simplistic. It I imagine that's the thing some people are probably going to be caught off guard by because they're used to having armor like helping out with like AC. That's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
the common thing. It's like you got to be you got to get a high enough AC so they can't hit you.
Yeah, I liked it being tied more to armor so that you can improve your chances of surviving later on. Like plus I really like the idea of a super heavy armor mage just running around the battlefield like hit me. I'll cast magic back at you.
Hit me harder.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, I tied it to armor because it was just it's another thing that's just super easy. You just need to know, oh, I'm wearing heavy. Okay, here's what I have to hit.
hmm and of course melee, is very standard. Just roll against the difficulty, and you're pretty much good to go. But range operates a little bit differently.
Yeah, range drop's a little bit different than melee. The big thing that you need to know between attacks is you always get +2 bonus dice. It's the only extra thing in this game that gives you like bonus dice without a skill. That
Just
way,
straight up attacking.
yeah, that way, regardless if you have only 3 points invested into a weapon, you can still critically hit someone.
Yeah, of course.
And that's really why it's there. To give you those extra dice.
Just give you a chance of that critical.
Yeah, and so that you can hit someone who has tough armor if you're really lucky. So
Oh yeah, because if you don't have a whole lot of without that +2, you don't have a whole lot into your attack skill. You're pretty much going to be screwed through the entire combat because you
yeah,
can't hit a thing.
yeah. So this game, at least when you have that, you have a chance of at least hitting someone. Not very
And
good chance, but you can.
and it's a completely situational +2. It's only for when you're attacking.
Yeah, only when you're attacking.
Mm-hmm. Just 2 free dice, but only for that specific situation. And with ranges, depending on what you're doing, it can change depending on short range and long range, and it
Mhm.
talks a little bit here in this little blue box. Whenever you're looking at a ranged weapon, sort of like how D&D does it, you get like a what looks like a fraction, but it's really differentiating what counts as short range, what counts as long range. Like
Mhm.
here with the short bow, everything within 14 feet is short range, and then everything after 14 but before 28 is long range, and then beyond that 28 you'll count as beyond.
Yeah.
And the consequences of that it's here if what you're shooting at is when short range you get +1 bonus die to roll. If it's at long range you start off with a basically a nat 1 already with the auto miss die, and then when you go beyond it, it's going to be stacking auto misses per increment beyond that.
Mhm.
Now, what does it mean per increment?
So the range between 15 to 28, for instance, on the short bow range, as it says there,
Mm-hmm.
anything you would then take that the remainder from that. So between 15 and 28, it's 13. So every additional 13 squares would be considered an additional range plus long range.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so every increment is the difference between the long range range.
Yeah. And it says it right there a little bit. So then anything from the 15 28 is long range. And then
Okay.
the distance. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Oh, it's fine. So, but yeah. And then,
That's very fair.
yep. And then, of course, when you're locked in melee, you can't attack people that aren't adjacent
So
to you.
you could definitely screw yourself over if you're using a weapon that's incredibly long range. Where yeah, sure, you have a longer range value to where you're good, but because it's incredibly longer, that's also well, actually no, that would be much of a benefit because beyond long range, you have more distance you have to go to get that additional hit die. So the incredibly long range stuff will be very good.
It would be good. Yeah, it would still roll with some because you would roll with some auto miss dice on it though.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's just more distance you have to go to in order to get that additional auto miss, since it's a difference between the minimum and maximum value of the long range rather than a set increment. Let's just
Yeah,
say it'll take a lot longer for a sniper rifle to get like 5 auto miss dice than it
then a
would
pistol.
did a pistol.
Yeah, and that's how I wanted it because it's like
Yeah,
if it's a sniper rifle, of course
it
it's going to
makes
be
a
good
lot
at
of
long
sense.
range.
It makes a lot of sense. So even the penalty here is very scalable.
Hmm.
I like that.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Oh boy, now he's talking more about his about our game ideas in the chat. Yeah, that's fun. Oh hey, this is completely different. You actually have a critical table here.
I do. Yeah.
I have not seen this.
Nope, that's a new one. Well, it's not new, but I added it to the chart so that you guys know how criticals work now.
Yeah, but like I've seen like the injury table before, but I've never seen like this actual critical table. This is actually kind of nice.
Yeah, it's a very nice critical table, and there's also in the optional rule set a critical healing table. So if you have someone that critically heals an ally, they do additional stuff as well.
Mm, I will say I may have a very raging support hard on when you say critical heal.
Yeah, isn't it great?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I added that because I have a combat medic friend who's always healing, and I was like, well, let's give you something because you critically heal sometimes. So now there's a optional rule set in the back with the GM stuff that tells you here's how you roll when they critically heal someone. So
That's pretty good. Yeah, I get to go over some of these criticals work. So when you roll a critical success, which is you have 5 or more hits, which are the 5 and 6s, or inflict 50 plus base damage in one hit. Now that's going to have to be a lot of. You got to be pretty hard hitting in order to get that. I would
well, you'd be
imagine.
surprised.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
There's sometimes I've seen people hit over that because they charge everything perfect.
Yeah,
So, but yeah.
yeah. But achieving either of those two to get the critical, you do an additional d6 of damage,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. Everything else already does d6 or very limited flat damage.
Mm-hmm.
Then roll a d6 and consult the chart below, which we have here. On a 1, you get a minor injury, or you give a minor injury,
Or you get one because if
or
you
you
get
get
critically
one.
hit
Yeah.
too.
You roll a d3, which can result in the person that got critical to get half movement, losing reactions, or inflicting half damage. And remember, with injuries, the effect stays until the injury's healed.
Yeah, minor injuries heal after combat. Major injuries stay until someone performs a successful surgery check.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On a 2, you just get a bonus of 10 flat damage. On a 3, you get you get or deal a major injury, which like minor, you roll a d3. 1 is a twisted ankle, maximum move 2 squares. Ooh, that's very.
Yeah.
I imagine that would suck for a field knight. You can't charge as much.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, trying to charge on an ankle that's killing you, pretty hard to do.
Pretty hard to do. You better hope you have a jetpack and fly, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't get.
So you get your flight speed.
Yeah, so you get your flight speed, so you can charge more effectively again.
Mm-hmm.
Dislocated shoulder on a 2, which is -2 bonus dice on melee attack. So is that basically the 2 hit or the damage?
It's for bonus dice. So you know how you get +2 bonus dice when you attack, you lose those. Pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd also be pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And then sprained wrist, which is the same thing as 2, but instead for melee, it's ranged,
Mm-hmm.
which still can also be pretty bad.
Yeah, especially if you're only rolling with 3 dice to hit to begin with.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's one way to effectively take someone out of combat without them with them still being alive.
Yeah, and it's a good way. It's fun, and it's cool because I had a player who got hit with that, and his whole shoulder got shot through, and so he
Ooh.
just could not perform any of his range checks. He couldn't even hold his sniper rifle because it required him to have 2 hands, and it was so bad that he couldn't do it. So,
and I can definitely agree with you, Neo. Combat medics are severely underrated.
they really are underrated.
The game I play with Night Seeker. There's a combat medic vet class for doctors, and they could basically have a summonable free cover. It's called the portable ambulance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It has like a set health bar and everything counts as full cover. Like you have to get rid of the ambulance before you can attack them, so that way the combat medic can do all the healing they need to do
Mhm.
safely.
That's always good. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
and they're like the only like medical class, like the only healing class that can actually wear heavy armor as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah. On a 4, on the target's next check, they roll with 2 auto miss dice. Oof, that's
Oof.
brutal. That is
Hmm.
brutal. On a 5, roll with a +1 auto hit die on your next check against the hit target and inflict the stun condition. Oh, so that's basically set up for execution,
Yeah.
basically.
Pretty much.
That is set up for coup de grace.
Hmm.
Which
Six is my favorite.
yeah, which I can't remember. Is there a coup de grace in this or
I
not?
mean, if you want it to be, I didn't need to put it in there because it's like, nah,
Okay.
that's how you do it. Then sure.
Yeah, why not? I'm like, if you've
There,
gone
there,
through if you've gone through the work and strategy and managed to actually pull off a situation where you
yeah,
can't coup de grace someone, why not let it
yeah,
happen?
and well, six especially helps with that.
Yep. 6, weak spot. You found the weak point of an adversary or landed a headshot and instantly kill average adversaries, which is a medium armor or below.
Well, so it actually explains later on what average adversaries are. There's adversaries have different levels, so there's average,
Okay.
strong, premium, and challenging. Most
So
things
it's more how difficult the enemy
the
themselves
creature
are.
is, yeah,
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. I kind of do the same thing where I do minion, elite, and boss,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where minions are like, hey, if you hit them like once, they're dead. You don't need to roll for damage just so long as you hit them.
Mhm.
Elites, they're more like player level, like they actually have like their own player skill
Yeah,
character sheet, and then boss it just takes multiple players to kill.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of
So
how I have mine. It's just broken down a little bit more
mhm.
on that. A lot of things you fight are adversaries are standard average level because pretty much strong is like a buffed up average character, challenging
Mhm.
is like a terrifying mini boss, and then premium is like, dear God, we're all gonna die. That's pretty much how that level system goes.
Pretty much. So you get to instantly kill the average adversaries, but on PCs, player characters, and strong or above adversaries, you inflict 2 times damage.
Hmm.
So basically, like D&D criticals.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is it like D&D criticals where you roll the damage dice twice, or do you damage your resulting
You
damage?
damage your multiply your resulting damage.
Multiply the resulting damage. So
Yeah,
that can be good or bad still.
yeah,
Well, with either option, it could be good or bad,
yeah.
depending on how you roll.
Yeah, but it's fun because the adversaries get hit
Because
those
I
critical
cannot
tables
tell you
too.
how many times I've cried tears of despair whenever my critical damage I rolled so badly, and then someone rolls like like just a base attack, and they did more damage to me.
Yeah, I know. That's why at least you'll always do a little bit more because you get
Yeah.
that extra little bit of d6 damage added on top of it,
Hmm.
and then you'll double inflict everything. So, but the fun part is that adversaries also get access to that critical chart. So,
Oh yeah,
ooh, that can hurt.
that can hurt. Okay, and we're starting to get into the bits about like how the details of combat actually works. Like you got your basic initiative, you roll a d6, adding finesse, higher it goes first, and if I'm right, after the turn order, it just stays within that order. You just go back to the top, right?
Yeah. So the
Yeah,
initiative stays until combat's over.
yeah. Because I think I've played some games where after every round you got to do new initiative,
Yeah,
which can be very fun or very monotonous.
yeah, I don't. I like to remove as much monotonous. So of course you can do it however you want, but I like to have just a set.
I would
Um,
say depending on the game itself, it could be a lot of fun, especially if you're playing with
mm,
a lot of speed characters. It can make a lot of sense.
yeah, see something like that. Like if you have a bunch of finesse-based people, sure, go ahead. That's how you want to do it. That's how you can do it.
It can definitely
Um,
shape up the battle because with a lot of parties, they have like their set strategy. Where like, okay, if I go first and you go next, then we can do some buffing or setups.
mhm.
But if you do initiative every single round, it's like, okay, strategy may be a bit hard to do here.
Yeah, so it's really up to personal preference. I just did it because it's easier to remember,
Yeah.
and I like it that way. But also, if you have a mimic in your team, everything goes out because mimics are capable later on of just switching their spots with other people. So
Hmm.
there's ways and abilities later on in the game based on things that you do to change up your initiative mid combat. But
Oh yeah. And and like in and within combat, if I remember, you basically have like you got two basic phases, which can be shaped up depending on your feats in class, which can allow you to do like extra stuff like bonus actions or
Yeah,
bonus movement and
like
stuff. But for the
extra
most part,
action, extra movement stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but for the most part, it's basically movement and action, and they can do multiple different things. Like with movement here, you can just move, or you can sprint for double, but you're going to screw yourself over with people attacking you. You
Mhm.
can aim instead, or like withdraw, or I guess as some people would be more used to disengage.
Yeah.
Channel, which be more important for like spells and stuff, as well
Yeah.
as doing stuff with your guns, like or weapons, like switching between equipment, reloading the gun, unjamming the gun, depending on
Mhm.
how badly you failed at rolling some stuff.
Yeah, well, there's like some weapons have sustain actions, and then if you fail any of the attacks, it jams up, so you have to unjam it,
Hmm.
things like that.
And the action is a lot more basic, where like, oh yeah, you can do your attacks or your spells or abilities.
Yep. So anything that says an action, can be done in the action phase.
Yep. And it gets modified again by bonus actions, bonus movement, so on and so forth.
Hmm.
Or if some of your skills or classes say, oh, you can do this thing without using up any of your phases.
Hmm.
This could be a thing. Reactions. Now, reactions I find kind of interesting with how you got it set up, especially with repelling. I definitely enjoy repelling.
Oh, repelling is great.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like repelling. The only thing I would see normally is if a DM would say if you're a melee person and someone goes into melee with you, you can have a attack of opportunity because they got into your sphere of influence.
Hmm.
But repelling is something kind of a little bit different.
Mm.
Like if a fighter were to get into you with a melee weapon while you're using a melee weapon, you can repel, which means you could do a contested check against them, um, which is basically the freaking strong armed arm wrestling with the dice there.
Yeah,
If the defender wins, they take a no damage, but if you win the die, well,
the contested check.
the depending if the defender wins, I guess in my situation, if they coming at you, if you win, you take no damage, but if they win, then yeah, you get hit.
And then if you tie, your weapons are locked in combat,
Yeah,
um,
and you have to
and can't
and
perform reactions.
basically you have to wait until like next turn to actually do something.
Yep. So it's kind of like two lightsabers locked in with each other, just glaring at each other.
Yeah, when I saw that, I immediately started thinking of Star Wars.
Yep, that's
I was
how
like,
I thought of
okay,
it too.
okay, I'm cool. I like repelling. Repelling is awesome.
Oh yeah, and then the defense ability also gives you some upper hands on repelling and stuff too. So you make your character very good at defending yourself. You get better at repelling.
Oh yeah, I could make a very duelist character.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you got this determination thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every 2 points invested into judgment, you gain 1 determination point. Marginal of 5, you get an additional number of points equal to your current level. The GM can reset determination at the start of a new story. Oh, that's actually kind of neat. New story segment. That's the first
Yeah,
time I've seen something
it
like
does
that before.
not reset every session.
It's,
So
it's it's only when you've entered the next chapter.
yeah, and so I didn't put the example in there, but it's the players just killed like one of the major antagonists, and they're about to advance into the dark unknown of their next story, and then determination could reset there. So it's
That's
very
kind of neat.
story based more than session based. So players never know when they're gonna get it refreshed. So they're like, okay, do we use all of it now? Because then he has a chance of throwing something scarier at us.
I actually kind of like that. That's a very nice trade-off.
Look at him. Glad you like it.
This is basically inspiration, but more dire.
Yeah, this is your character is determined to do something here.
And as I said, it's basically inspiration. What it basically does that you can spend a point to just get a +1 to any die, and I imagine you can like spend multiple 1 points just to do the
Yes.
one pip, but it's like
Mhm.
for one dice every point or something.
Yep. Yep.
So basically, you can't do a +2 to a dice. You can only do a +1 to like 2 dice or 3 dice or 4 dice.
Yep.
All right. Spend 2 points. You can re-roll your check, but you'll have to. I imagine you have to take the resulting check even if it's
Yes.
worse.
Yeah. Rerolls. It explains somewhere in the main book that rerolling can only be done once unless you use determination. Then you have to take the second outcome. So
I will miss every repel action.
Yeah.
um, and then finally at 5 points, you can force an adversary to re-roll their check, but with the same caveat that they have to, you will have to let them keep their
Yeah.
re-roll, even if it's better.
Which is so funny because that's actually what they used when I was talking to my example about the spellcaster. That's what they finally used to prevent me from casting it. Finally, they tried everything else, and then the
I
guy's
was going
like,
to say, let me guess. On the re-roll, you critically succeeded.
"Yeah,
'Cause
no, no, I
that
finally
would be
failed.
putting salt in the wound.
Yeah, no, I finally failed. I succeeded I succeeded 8 checks that they threw at me at once. Succeeded all of them, but then but the last person finally spent all of his determination and made me re-roll it, and I failed, and they were like, "Thank you." Like, oh, and I'm like, "Great, now you guys aren't prepared for the actual boss fight."
Yeah.
Nice.
And we're going to get to the point where we're going to need to wrap up this little show off.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about a couple of skills, a couple of expertise, then look at it at like one or two races, one or two classes.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have the skills. I think it was said before you choose like
You're
oh yeah
given 4 points.
four skill points, 4 skill
Mm-hmm.
points to invest, and you cannot invest more than 2 into one at level 1.
Mm-hmm.
So here's like the skill list is a pretty nice selection. Not any that I've seen that was different from the first edition.
No, no, they should all except for defense. Defense is the newest one that I added.
Oh, defense. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I see it. Defense. All right. Fair enough. And of course, the little letters within the brackets is about the little parentheses
Mm,
relates them to their virtue, power, finesse, vitality, so on and so forth.
yes.
And I imagine if they got the slash, it's like you can use like here for dual wielding example. If it's P or F, P/F, it's like okay, you can use power or finesse with it.
Yeah, so if you're using finesse-based weapons, you can use it. But if you're using power-based weapons, you duel with the power. But like for things like the environmental survival there,
Mm-hmm.
the one right below that, since there's a slash, but there's also a line. So
Mm-hmm.
anything to the left of that line, you can do without any negatives. Anything to the right, you get an auto miss die when you try to use that to perform that check.
Okay, so, and is that accurate for both? Left is always the positive,
Left
right
is
is
always a
always.
positive, right's always a negative. Yep.
Oh, okay. So if you take a left one, you get an additional. You get an auto hit. On the right, you get a auto miss.
Oh no, no, I'm sorry. If you use anything on the right, so the left side is your standard. You get any bonuses you normally do. If you use it on the right side, you also have to add an auto miss die to it.
Okay. So left has.
Left is just your standard, whatever bonuses you normally get. Right is if you have to add an auto miss die or not.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Well, since we've mentioned dual wielding first, let's talk about that. It's kind of standard. It allows you to be able to wield more than one weapon without any real negative penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if I'm right, if you do dual wielding without having this skill, you just basically have an auto miss.
Yeah, you have an auto miss on your second attack. So and
And you
there's
have a
something else to
power
get.
virtue score of 8+, you can dual wield two-handed weapons.
Yep.
Which, is very nice. I imagine a lot of people would love to play that kind of like a barbaric kind of character.
Yeah,
Where
just a
they're all
giant.
about just giant slab of muscle with the two big swords.
Yeah, or just have 2 power hammers. It's just running around,
Yeah,
smashing everything.
imagine a field knight with that. That's going to be a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage. And since defense is new, I guess we could talk about that. Since people who have seen the first edition wouldn't know what defense is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Skill represents your ability to resist and defend against incoming attacks. With a point invested, you may use it to perform repels. When you have 4 points invested into defense, you gain an auto hit die when repelling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I already know with some classes you kind of like start off with a skill already without using any of your points. So I
Yeah.
imagine like Field Knight will probably start off with defense.
Field Knight can choose either muscle or defense. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then that Blade Dancer class I was talking about starts out with +2 invested into it, actually.
Okay. I guess we could do like a surprise one that. Oh yeah, muscle is a virtue.
Yeah.
And sort of like dual wielding, another combat one we kind of have is the Weapon Master, which allows you to actually use weapons of different kinds.
Yeah. So weapons mastery is used if you're attacking with a single weapon and not performing additional attacks.
Yeah, because
Um,
depending on what you're actually using can change what you're supposed to use for combat.
yeah. So if you're a dual wielder, but you're only attacking with one of your swords and you're not going to use your secondary attack, you would use weapons mastery.
Hmm.
So
Well, which makes a lot of sense. You know, it's a way to encourage you to stick with a style.
yeah.
So it's to sort of perfect the style and
Mhm.
master it.
Or kind of go between both of them. So you have bonuses to use.
Options you would be more
Like if someone
versatile.
takes away your other sword, at least you now have you're proficient at least with one sword still, so you know how to use it. So
Hmm. And then we have expertise. Uh, if I remember right, you can only have 4 fields of expertise, but some can take up 2 of those points.
yes,
Like one
they
of them
usually have
here
a 20.
is alternate appearance, which I kind of like for a role play
Mm-hmm.
aesthetic. It spends you need to spend 2 of those for expertise points, but because of that, you can basically choose a different form to transform into. And you can just go in there for free. That's just your dedicated secondary form,
Yep.
which can be incredibly useful in some situations.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Very much so.
Very much so. And one that I kind of noticed that was very new is Born Star. That was not in the original first edition of the demo book.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of new. I added a bunch of expertise since the new
Yeah,
book
and
anyway. But
another one is ageless, which basically just means, oh yeah, you can no longer age now.
yeah, you're pretty much you
Basically,
still die, but
naturally immortal. You can still die in combat and disease, you just don't age.
yeah, it's very important to in this universe, especially with the Elan. It explains that ageless is your character is not immortal because a lot of people like to say, oh, you don't age, you're immortal. No, you can easily die, but they eventually fade out of existence because the soul can only maintain its place here long enough. So the longest someone can live to be is about 4,000 years old before it's just like, oh, I can't be here anymore, and they kind of just vanish.
Before the soul's like, nah, I got other places to be.
Yeah, before it's like, peace out, I'm gone.
Peace out. And then, of course, Born Star is the other new one, which is basically more of your bard kind of a thing where it helps you with performance checks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to get paid for your performances, you just get a base amount of additional credits.
Yep.
Which is 500 here, apparently.
Yep.
But when you start performing, you get a bonus dice. You get a bonus
Yes.
die, which can also be incredibly helpful for early on for someone who wants to be a performer, which I've actually wanted to do. I've only played like a bard once, but it was more of like a joke character, but I wanted to do at some point like an actually serious performing based character
Yeah.
who legit wants to be an entertainer and actually try to like perfect their performance to also be useful for adventuring.
Yeah, that's why I added performance as a skill, and then the Born Star as one of the
I
features.
imagine
So,
a blade dancer would probably enjoy Born Star a lot
yeah, probably.
because hey, I can dance a lot better. I could get more from dancing too.
Yeah, that's one of the
Uh,
classes I'm excited to release eventually.
oh, here's like another 2 right here. Strong memory, 2 auto hit dice when performing knowledge contested checks. Ooh, that's actually pretty good for a smarty pants character.
Yeah, well, it's also fun because there's something, and I think I have it in the demo book. I just can't remember. But if your character forgets something,
Mm-hmm.
you can attempt a contested check to relearn that thing. Like,
Huh.
like let's say the GM said something.
Oh,
Your character
so it's more
knows.
like an easy out of a thing that comes up later in the story, but all the players forgot. You can roll to
Yeah.
see if the
If
characters
nobody
remembered.
remembered it, nobody wrote it down. Be like, wait, let me see if my character can recall this. So because it makes it
I
so
like
that
that. I like that a lot.
yeah, it does that, and then if your character has general knowledge of a place, they can perform one of
I
those to
would.
kind of learn more about it.
I always tend when it comes to like getting people into a new game. I tend to like give like recommendations like, okay, you need at least one character to have like this or this or this. I would definitely have strong memory as a recommendation for at least one character.
At least someone, yeah.
At least someone.
It
You're
would be very
probably
good for
going to
someone
need
though.
this a lot.
Yeah, so it's definitely it's a really good one to have, especially if you're newer to the game and you don't really know how to keep track of all that kind of stuff.
And this here, I definitely want to get into because this just immediately drew my attention because that was one thing. Also, me and my friends were like, "What the hell is a session?
Yeah, no, that's always good to know.
What consists a session?"
Yep.
Because there were like some cooldowns that were like based off a session. Like, well, what does that mean though?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. Well, that like freaked us out for like a little bit,
I
but
understand. That's why it's in there now.
it'd be playtime, so it'd be basically essentially just each individual session themselves or
Or
a
story progression.
chapter in the story.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, well, would session be like every time we play, or is it like a set amount of in-game time? Like,
Yeah, so
what's a session?
it's really up to the GM. But people
Hmm.
did ask me, like you did too, and everybody else, like, what is a session? So I tried to break it down and explain what a session could be. So
Okay,
it's either playtime,
I,
which I use sometimes, or story, which I use a lot.
and I think I would probably use story progression a lot more because that is a lot more of an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, I
It,
like the
it, it
idea.
incentivizes to we'll still like explore around and like do their own things. So that'd be open ended. It would incentivize to actually go along with the story for a little bit.
Yeah,
To get little bit more on the rails of the roller coaster of the game.
yeah, exactly.
Like it's like less of a horizontal kind of thing where they go off and like do whatever, but it's more of like a vertical
Mhm.
kind of a decision where instead of like going off and doing their own tangent, they still stay on the track, but it's like different highs or lows of how much they want to be on the track.
Yeah, and so that really helps with figuring out what a session is. And I prefer the story because if your character trains with like a master of a town or something, and you eventually
Mm.
learn how to be proficient with the sword that way, versus I've used it 3 times in the last 5-hour sessions that we've played, so I'll get better at it.
And this here is also another thing I'm interested in: starship rules, because I would love to get into situations where we do ship-to-ship combat. That'd be pretty cool.
Yes, I didn't put them in there yet because there's a lot.
Because demo, I think there's only like one ship in the at least it was in the first edition. There's only like one vehicle in there.
Yeah, there's one vehicle still in this one that I put in there, but
Okay.
the Starship rules actually take up like 3 pages. And then they also have a whole chapter dedicated to starships because I wanted starships to be very much feel like their own character as well.
Mm-hmm.
So even starships have
Like, of course,
expertise.
if you're going to make a character all about their starship, they're going to do a lot of customization on it.
Yeah, yeah, and it really is. And there's all sorts of options for like new shieldings, new vehicle techs, new engines, things that they can get. But on top of that, there's also based on the history of the starship. They also get starship-based expertise
Right.
in the game as you progress through the game. Like one of our starships in our current game has the expertise Unbreakable. So it's been broken so many times that it's much easier for the wing to not break off of it now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much stronger at resisting being pulled apart now because
Right.
they've broken it so many times that they're getting used to fixing it. So different things like that.
Yeah. And this was like another section I kind of noticed the golden rules. Now, no, like no offense to you, but when I saw that, I like cringed like a little bit on the inside because I've seen some like some manuals that try to do this sort of thing, be respectful and that stuff, and they come off incredibly cringy, especially when it comes to
Oh,
some games
mm,
like I say like with Warhammer saying like no violence, no horror in it. It's like, well, wait, none of that stuff. Do you not know your own game and what it's built off of?
yeah, I didn't do any
Yeah,
of that.
yeah. But like here is like very tame. It's like, hey, just have fun, be creative. So
Yeah,
it's like, okay, that's not that bad. I actually like that. I actually like that very
yeah,
much.
no, I find those things too cringy too.
It,
But I wanted to add the golden rules because there's a lot of people that will try to say, "Oh, well, well, there isn't a rule in the game." So I'm like, be creative. If there isn't a rule in the game, make something.
yeah, just make your own rule if it's not accounted for.
The golden rules are more there to prevent the naysayers rather
Yeah,
than encourage anything else.
yeah, but I'm just glad that the only cringe I had to this was the initial cringe, not actual
Not
current
actual
cringe.
cringe. Yeah, no, I try to stay away from being as cringy as possible. So I just wanted
Okay,
some rules to help with that, with
yeah.
the naysaying.
Oh yeah, of course, completely understandable. And they get to like another little rule thing that actually is interesting, which is the multi-realm arcane system, where it talks about like how the magic works, which I find rather interesting, where every magic comes from a specific realm,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, every magic class can use spells from all of the different realms, but only certain classes built for that realm can use the
Mm-hmm.
specialty spells.
Yep.
And you get the penalty, which are the energizing state, where the more you use from a specific realm, the more difficult it takes to continue casting from that realm. So it incentivizes you to go into different realms and get different spells.
Yeah, but it also makes it so that it's also limited, without limiting how many you can cast. So if you
Hmm.
want to keep casting and that's all you know is the
Yeah, it's
arcane
not
realm, then
it's
sure,
not
keep
something
going.
as bullshit as spell slots.
Yeah,
I hate spell
I
slots
that's
incredibly.
again can of worms. It's like one of the reasons I took so long on my arcane because I always hated most magic in games. So
Mm-hmm. And of course, now we get into the different races. Which one you want to start off with first? The Celestia, Exiled, Humans, or Prototype? What do you want to start with?
oh, we could just go with the Celestia because of the first one there. They're just
Okay.
the good old space boys made of space.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we get the Celestia. Here's like a nice little artwork, and what I'm gonna say, I definitely appreciate, as I said before, like before the stream, like the different art changes, like some of the stuff like that got switched out looks really really slick.
Mm-hmm.
So Celestia, you could kind of use this to anticipate what you'll kind of find with like all the other races. So you get your core concept art here of what the average would probably look like.
Yeah,
Then you get like a little excerpt of a character talking about from their point of view what the race is about.
yeah,
Then you
learning
get
some basic history.
basically learning about them through lore rather than just mechanical reading.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get some additional more third party kind of lore where you talk about like where they come from, what they're all about. Um, some very core concepts of the race themselves, like basically like what's the overall theme thereafter. Then you get the very basic, like, hey, here's if you're having trouble with naming them, here's some example names you can do,
Yeah,
which for Celestia is basically just planets, galaxies, celestial bodies,
yeah,
basically.
different things like that. You can name them whatever. I mean, I had one in our group that was named Starflower because she was half Topican, half Celestia, and I was like, okay,
Fair
whatever
enough.
works.
Whatever works. And then you got your stats like for your character sheet. You got their age, which apparently for Celestia is like around 600 years until their court. I also kind of like how you kind of describe how they die, and for
Yeah.
Celestia, it's their galaxy core just collapses.
Yep.
Basically black hole themselves.
Yeah. Well, the thing is I try to work as much flavor and lore into every single bit so that you know what things are without overwhelming you with information.
Hmm. Just little tidbits about the lore here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Their heights, apparently they're like 4 to 5, a little bit shorter than humans, I would assume,
Yeah.
since average humans is more like 5 to 6.
Yeah.
Your speed, which for us, let's just 6 squares.
Mm-hmm.
The special stuff, what basically like a special flair of what tangible benefits you can get from being the specific race, which for Celestia is that you don't need oxygen, so you can't really drown or be asphyxiated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or you like just hold your breath and not be bothered by air poisons.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need food, don't need water, basically don't need any rations or supplies. You're basically good for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you are immune to the environmental effects of space, which makes a lot of sense since you're made
You're
up of
made
space.
up of space. Yeah.
You are space. Why should you suffer for being in space?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really fun too once we dive a little bit more into actually releasing some more lore stuff about them. They actually spawn in the middle of space when they're first
So they
created.
don't they aren't birthed. They
No,
aren't
they're just
born on a
spawned.
planet. They're just literally born from
They're
space.
born in space, and there's like this whole collection system that like goes around and finds the random Celestia and brings them back. But they're really funny.
It would be kind of cool if there was a race that was born after like a certain class of star, like supernovas.
I do actually have one like that later on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of neat to read about later.
Mm-hmm.
Then of course we got languages here. Common, which like everybody needs a shared trade language.
Yep.
it makes a lot of sense. But then you get your personal exotic language, which for Celestia is Koavi, which, if I remember right, is the language of the celestial realm.
Yes, and I actually based the spelling of the name off of listening to some sounds in space,
Oh,
um,
really?
and the sounds of like stars thumping in space. And I heard when I was doing it, Kawabi, it sounded like to me. So I was like, okay, cool, let's do that as the language of stars.
That's actually a pretty neat tidbit. Did not know that. That's actually pretty
Mhm.
cool.
That's how I
And I
use
also
it.
like to imagine when speaking it, it sounds like Enochian,
Yeah, kind of.
which is a for real language someone made up like forever and a hell ago,
Yep.
saying that it's like the language of God and the angels. And fun fact: if you play Bayonetta, all the angels and demons, and Bayonetta herself, when she summons her demons, speak actually Enochian.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. So if you play Bayonetta and hear the angels speak, you're hearing the language of angels, literally.
Mhm.
But the downside of that, if I remember right in natural history, is that if a person actually starts learning Enochian, the more they learn, the more insane they go, and the less of their natural language they remember.
Oh, yeah, that's actually there's the language of the faces in this one, which are like one of the big bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a language that's so corruptive on the mind that if you try to speak it, it actually starts to corrupt your soul.
Ooh.
So people know it, but they don't speak it, because it starts tearing away at their minds when they do so.
So only for emergencies then.
Yeah, it's something
Yeah.
you don't want to speak because it'll drive you crazy. But it's really funny too because I have a friend who's a prototype, and he plugged himself into one of these uh, command systems,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't realize that it was a demonic controlled ship. And so all of the code was like that. So he had this whole inner battle of being like corrupted, and he attacked the players because it started like taking over his programming and stuff. It was great.
That's beautiful. And then after the stats, we get into the racial traits, which are basically just two things every character gets just because of what their race is.
Mm-hmm.
And for Celestial, you got Celestial Mandate and Celestial Providence. With Mandate, because if you were to read the lore fluff of Celestia, they really like to hard focus on a specific thing to master. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, you could choose a skill at creation that best represents a particular goal that you have in mind for your character to want to focus on. And so for once every 4 rounds of combat or every 10 minutes outside of combat, you may add 2 auto hit dice on the check.
Yep.
So if you want a Celestia that wants to be like a really, really good crafter, whenever you're like making something, you can have 2 auto hits on making something.
Yeah.
Which could be pretty cool for utility kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Or if you want a Celestia that's like, if you want to make it like power game the combat, you can make a Celestia who really really wants to be a excellent fighter, so they can have like a 2 auto hit on 2 hit
Mm-hmm.
or to damage or something. Which can be pretty neat.
Yeah.
Just different way to specialize the character in that way. And
Yeah.
then the Providence, which one of my friends really really liked, and was why he really wants to be a Celestia, is that you can rip a tear into the celestial realm. Upon doing so, you link the life force of adversaries together. Once per 24-hour period, you may link up to 5 adversaries together. Linked adversaries are inflicted damage equal to half of the damage dealt to the other adversaries linked to them. And the link lasts up to 4 rounds. So basically, if you can link up to like 5 enemies together, you can link their health together, and if you attack an enemy and do like 20 damage, then the other guys take 10 damage.
Yep. Rounded
So
up. So,
yep, round it up.
just in
And
case.
when he saw that, I was like, oh, I want to play Celestia. I want to turn every single attack into an AoE without
I
being
know.
an AoE.
Yeah, I know. It's something I when I was making it, I was like, oh, this will be fun.
Yeah.
Which, it's the whole point of the game. It's like, oh, this will be fun. Let's add that.
Oh, yeah. And then after that, you do, again, as we talked about before, the Ancestry Pass, which is basically the very special flavor for your character, depending on
Mm.
their race and and every race has their own different ancestral past depending on their own unique lore, fluff, and mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And for Celestia, they could choose like one of four because they're born from four different celestial beings who they
Mm-hmm.
also worship as gods.
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part, yeah, they're basically the children of these four beings. They're made up of their essences, and depending on which celestial they're born from, they get different effects. Like Eridan, who is the celestial of like arcane, so they get add one to their arcane virtue, a plus one to an arcane virtue of their choice, depending on I guess
Mm-hmm.
like what virtue their class does for their casting.
Yeah.
And they also gain an auto hit die on Arcanting checks, and additional novice level spell,
Yep.
which is pretty neat. And of course, each one does like their own different techs, and I will assume you could choose which one based off just for lore reasons, or if you want to power game a certain aspect, you can build a character to be really good. Something you can make your character based off of these different celestials.
Yes, exactly. And so based on how you want them to be, you can kind of read through them, or you can just be like, "Oh, this sounds cool. Let's go with that."
Yeah. So again, you could use it for either purely mechanical reasons or for roleplay reasons.
Yep.
And then we get into the class. Let's get a bit into the soldier because I actually kind of find the field knights a lot more interesting because they have a very unique play style. So, sort of like how with the races work. Whenever you go into the classes, you get like your basic conceptual artwork to sort of visualize what the character might look like, or something to
Mm-hmm.
base off of. I was kind of like how you get like this little like short story about a class or how someone perceives a class based on their experiences with it. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
nice.
It's that was actually written by my editor. Those were the ones that I commissioned her for originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the fun part too is if you take all of them and you put them, I can't remember how she organized them, but if you take them and you put them together, it all tells one collective story between all 9 races or 9 classes.
So like every single of these lore stuff can actually make a narrative.
Yeah, you'll hear, this name. Wait, wasn't this mentioned earlier in one? Oh yeah, it was mentioned there. And so all
Okay,
the
that could be pretty fun for some people who want to, like solve a puzzle. They could probably try and figure out the order of
yeah,
events here.
there's a lot of puzzles in this game too. Stuff that's hinting towards future releases, but not
Ooh.
giving you just
So you got like a little something for like the mystery solvers of the world.
Yes,
You
because
wanna
I enjoy doing that stuff too, trying to guess what's coming next. Especially in Philidai section, which is the back lore section of the book. There's a lot of hinting.
maybe basically go into like a forum and start seeing some theory crafting threads.
That'll be fun. I want
Yeah,
that to happen.
that'd be definitely fun. Have some theory crafting.
Yes, I hope that happens because that'd be fun.
And then you have like this little meta fluff. Unlike the lore fluff, is more of like a actual third party meta detail of like what the class is supposed to be
Mhm.
about. Then you get your starting proficiencies, which for a Field Knight, you get the Chain Saber, Archaic Melee Weapons, the Great Chainsword, Sonic Shields, and Plasma Rifles. Because, again, with what you want to do, you want to allow every class to be able to fill any kind of role. So, of course, with a Field Knight, you also want them to have a ranged option.
Yep. And those are what you start out as proficiency. So if you don't want to spend money on stuff, that's what you start with. But if you buy a staff using credits at the character creation, your character will automatically be proficient with that staff.
Because a staff counts as an archaic melee weapon.
Well, no. It's just because since you spent credits on that, it's assuming that your characters had that in their backstory. So yeah, you automatically start with proficiency in that.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you buy something that you're not proficient with in your class, then you'll get that proficiency.
So you just gain a proficiency just by buying the thing
at the start, yeah. But if you buy something
at the start
of creation, yeah. So if you're buying a staff later on, but you didn't buy it at the beginning, you're not going to have proficiency with it. You're going to have to learn because your character didn't start the game with that.
Okay, that's fair enough. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of assuming that your character knows because they've had it, they've known.
Yeah, because like, why else would they start off with a staff they don't know what to do with it?
Yeah, so
yeah, that's completely fair. Then armor, you have heavy and medium, which makes a lot of sense. You're supposed to be in the front of the combat, taking all the damage. tools and specials, which is basically like the items you can use that can do different things. Which for Field Knights, it's jetpacks and rocket boots because that's what they use to charge into combat.
Hmm.
They don't use mounts. They are the mounts.
Yeah, they are themselves the mount.
Yeah. And you got your HP stuff here. When you level up, you do 2d6 or 7. If you don't want to roll, you just want to do your average, you can just take 7. Plus vitality to your max health.
Hmm.
Um, we may have skipped over and I may have forgotten, but what's like the base start for HP?
So I believe, unless I changed it, it should be 12 plus your
Vitality.
vitality. Hmm.
12 plus vitality. Okay.
Yeah, and
And
then
then you have your starting items, basically what your guy starts off for free. You don't have to buy any of these things. You
yes.
just start off with them. Ways you could choose rocket boots or jetpack. You also start off with a synthetic heavy armor. You start off with
Solar credit.
5d6 times 1,000 credits,
Mhm.
which you could then use to buy stuff at the beginning. If you buy like the staff, you can be proficient in it.
Yep.
If you buy it, that start with your beginning credits. Then you could choose a chain saber and sonic shield, or start with a great chain blade, or start with a power hammer, which we'll get into. Depending on what you get, can change up how your abilities work.
Hmm.
And then you can start off with a bonus level in your muscle virtue, or your weapons mastery skill, or your defense skill. And which, of course, since defense wasn't a thing in the first edition, is a new thing now that
Yeah.
you can start with.
Yep.
Because before it's like +1 level in muscle or weapons mastery. Well, now you got defense to choose. So you want to be more of a tanky guy.
Hmm.
And of course, since this is a demo book, you're not going to be able to go up to level 20, but you can go up to like level 4. And this here just sort of describes what you can get, which is charge of battle and jump charge and flow of battle, rocket swing, chivalrous strike, and advanced training, which gives you a +1 virtue point and +1 expertise.
Yep.
Now, the jump charge is very very lengthy to talk about, but what essentially it is that you can use your rocket boots or your jetpack to move your movement like times your movement or just your base movement, or you can just move regularly and then do a straight line charge. But if you do you just use the 2 times movement, and you can actually direct more of what your charge will actually be like.
Yeah.
But when you do the charge, if you hit someone in the charge, you do a contested power check. If the target fails, you drag them along with you for the rest of your movement and do scaling damage plus power and damage, and they're knocked prone.
Hmm.
And if they hit a solid object like a wall, it does an additional 10 damage.
Or if you run them into another bigger adversary.
Yeah. But if they are a larger, bigger adversary, then your charge immediately ends, but they just take additional damage. And I imagine if they succeed the charge, they're either like dodging it or it just ends right then and there.
Yeah, they're like dodging out of the way, and you just keep going forward.
Okay, you just keep going. Fair enough. And again, the damage that you do on a larger adversary, scales depending on your level. The ability may be activated once every 2 rounds, and again requires the boots and jetpack. And the damage scales at levels 1, 5, 10, and 15, so every 5 levels.
Yep.
And then flow of battle. Oh yeah, so if once per turn when you fail an attack, you gain a battle charge, and you can have up to 6 of them. You have up to 6 battle charges at once, and they last until they use. So you can basically save your battle charges for the next fight, basically. Yep. But you can spend 3 of those battle charges to basically automatically hit somebody.
Yep.
Which is pretty good, because even if you fail, you're still gaining something that could be useful much later.
Yeah. It's pretty much just like your character's just getting angry. It's like,
just getting more angry.
Stop dodging.
Stop dodging, let me hit you.
Yep. Rocket's quite like that one.
Oh yeah, it's definitely very good. And Thumb Attack here, we talk a bit more about the all the different spells and stuff. Thumb Attack has like the largest sheet in this demo, because they're talking about all the different spells you can do.
Much magic, yeah.
Then we get into basically like how equipment works, what all the different things do,
Yeah,
which could
well,
be
that's
pretty
definitely
fun.
self-explanatory.
hmm I think the only thing that really changed is like I'm pretty sure there's like a lot of chains, but the only one that I really noticed the Great Chainsword here, where instead of doing a flat 12 damage, it's now 2d6 plus 6.
Yep.
And then with this, when attacking, activate the blade as an extra action to deal. Before it was 16 damage, but now it's 19 damage instead. So
Yep.
instead of doing, so you can do your attack and do the 2d6 plus 6, and then if you have a bonus action available, you can activate the chainsaw on the sword and do an additional 19
Yeah.
damage. Which could be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Of course, you have all your ranged weapons and your tools and all that.
oh yeah, all that fun stuff. And then this is also new for the second edition, where you actually have some example enemies to fight here,
Mm-hmm.
like the Mecha Ripper. It's pretty fun.
One of my favorites.
Apparently, it's a wyvern dragon.
No, I think when I was editing that one, I still
You,
put that
you
one in
might have
there.
you might have screwed that one up a little
Yeah,
bit.
I still have to go through. That's the one last thing I have left to check, and I was actually going to do that after this today. Was verifying all the monsters have their correct titles.
Yeah, this is more of just like an early look into something that's not quite complete, but almost
Yeah,
ready
it
for
will be
shipping out.
complete Tuesday,
Tuesday,
most likely.
so on Tuesday, this will replace the first edition demo book.
Yes, most likely. I think it should. I don't.
Should.
I don't like dealing in promises, so I say it should.
God damn it, man! Commit.
I don't like it. I don't like promising people stuff that doesn't happen, so I'm like, it should.
And then the other one here, we have the Mist Wyvern,
The Mist Wyvern.
which is pretty cool. I imagine the dragons probably have like different elemental types. It's probably like the water or air type.
Yeah, they're actually when you read their lore, they're like comprised of the clouds of
Freezing
order.
breath. So they're more the water type then.
Yeah, well, they're like mist. So mist is both clouds and water mixed together. So
So
it's
it's,
like
it's like
both.
water and storm kind of
Yeah.
together.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. So it could probably do like ice attacks and lightning
Yeah,
attacks.
and I also included those both in there because both of those monsters are monsters you can summon as either a naturalist or a necromancer later
Oh,
on.
that's kind of cool. Though one thing I did notice is that the one vehicle that the first edition had isn't in here.
Yeah, I meant
The
to
transport
in there.
vehicle, it's
Mhm.
not in here.
Yeah, I was going to add it back. I just had to rework the graphic for it because it wasn't wanting to work with me last night, and I was tired. So
You know that is again fair enough. But that's basically it for this sneak peek at an incomplete demo book.
mm-hmm.
All right, and it is now at like almost 7:30. We're pretty much
Yeah.
kind of up at the allotted time. I imagine you probably want to leave to go do family stuff, or do you still have like more time?
I don't know. Was there anything else you needed to talk about, or were you all good to go?
None much. I would say, but if you did want, we can take like another 5-10 minute break, come back, and then we just relax, just shoot the shit, talk with chat for a little bit, have a little interaction, just hang out until we feel like it's time to leave.
Okay. Well, if there wasn't anything else particular, I am starving because I did not eaten yet today. So I would like to go get some food.
Well, would you like to come back afterwards, or are you going to call it after that?
I'm actually going to have to run up north to get some food. So it'll be a while.
Okay. Okay,
But
well, that's
I
fair
did
enough.
have a lot of fun here. I thought we were able to talk about it all. Hopefully, you got to enjoy or learn some stuff about it too.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a lot more educational. I managed to understand a bit stuff better, and I hope with this can sell some people on the idea of getting Veil of the Void themselves. And
Oh yeah.
can you repeat for the crowd again? When exactly can we expect the book to be coming out?
Okay, so it should be shipping most likely the latest at all cost would be the 16th of August. However, pretty much once the book will be sent off to printing and I approve of the final, everybody will get their PDFs. The PDFs will then be available for purchase online as well, and the book itself will be able to be purchased once the paperback and hardbacks ship in August. So just a few more weeks, and everybody will be able to own their own copies and buy them.
Let's see what the chat has been saying that we can get into. Okay, Night Seeker, I think I said before, missed every repel action. Duelist Field Knight, well, I'm going to claim this base and wait for some enemies to join me in a friendly fencing match. On guard. Dual wielding battle axes, incorrect. Dual wielding chain swords, yeah.
Ooh, both.
That,
Why not both? Why not
eh.
both?
If
Just
only
switch
you
them.
get 2 bonus actions, so you can rev up both chain swords.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be pretty devastating. My Ice Mage will embrace this challenge.
Mm.
Beware the Celestia, hugging them may result in extreme cancer. Yeah, that's the one. Again,
Yeah,
like, just hanging around them will just be a cancer problem.
yeah, just a bit.
It is the bit. Sounds like Latin. I think he was talking about when I was talking about Enochian. It's not Latin. It's something completely different.
Yeah,
It's not
very
even a
different.
Latin language. It is
Yep.
a whole crap. Um, Someone say mystery solving. Oh boy, we set the magic word.
Yep.
Proficiency SR does make a lot of sense. It does. Yep. Robo Wyverns, maybe, but not the Mecha Ripper. Maybe later on we can have a. Because remember,
Well,
the
I
Necromancer is basically a cross between a Technomancer and a
and a necromancer.
Necromancer. And of
Mhm.
course, already you got the Draco Lich, which is basically undead dragon. So maybe we can get Robo
Yeah.
Wyverns.
Well, what's fun is it's not in the demo book, but I do have a whole in the Philodite section there, the paper looking one. I have a whole section of mechaliths, which are these like techno created monsters. So there's like a robot T-Rex. That's
Ooh.
one of the adversaries. There's robotic
Me
raptors.
Grimlock say you're full of cesium salami.
And so there's those. There's
Oh, well, I hope you're
prototypes.
prepared for me turning Veil of the Void into Transformers.
Go ahead if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
People are like, I hope you're prepared for this. I'm like, sure. If
Yeah.
that's how you want to do it,
That's how you want to do it.
there's no wrong way to play it.
Yeah.
So if you want to do it that way, go good for you. Just let me know how it goes because I would love to hear the stories that come from it.
Night Seeker, I don't have 4 arms. Well, then you need to play a Quarian. Because then you will have 4 arms.
Well, the fun thing about Quarians too is they can actually dual wield two-handed weapons earlier with less power needed.
Yeah, because they have 4 arms.
4 arms.
They can do it.
Yep.
Every arm has their own power factor. Nah. Nah, he's pretty hard set on his human that basically power games the charisma stuff.
Hey, that's all. That's the way to do it.
Yep, he wants all the free things.
Hey, you know what? All the free things. Yeah, that's fine.
All the free things. Blade Dancer with Bard and Wizard multi-classes and uses a guitar to cast an attack with. You know what? Just Brutal Legend the whole thing.
Yeah, just Brutal Legend. There you go.
Brutal Legend.
Perfect.
I remember a friend of mine wanted to do a Brutal Legends themed D&D, and I was going to make a demon bassist.
Oh, nice.
The whole thing was like he's going to have like the 4 arms. He's going to have like the double-headed bass,
Mhm.
and of course in Brutal Legends the bassists are the healers.
Yeah.
But instead of just outright healing, since he was a demon and due to like the whole like BDSM cold aesthetic, he was actually going to. Whenever he plays his music to heal people, he was actually taking damage onto himself from his allies.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, you took 5 points of damage. Well, I'm going to take those 5 points and I'm going to put it on myself.
that's perfect for
a
that
demon.
type. Yeah, that's great. I like it.
And he was actually part of the demon clergy too. So hey,
that's great.
Yeah,
that's the best part about RPGs is just creativity.
And the only reason why he allowed he wasn't even going to allow people to play demons, but I said I wanted it as an idea. That he liked the concept so much, he was actually going to change like the story a little bit to where some stuff in the demon land was going down, and some demons didn't like it, so some rebels were made.
Nice. That's good when people change something up to fit a story.
All because he liked my character concept.
Perfect. You did it. You made the GM change.
Achievement get. I apparently have a habit of doing that. I am very good at changing people's minds about stuff.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to have. So,
yeah. Got to make use of that noble life. Yep, you got to make use of the noble life. And so, with that, I guess we can let you leave so you can go and not starve to death.
Yeah, that'd be good. I like playing the game, but I don't actually like starving. So, uh,
Yeah.
but thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, definitely no problem. If any of you want to get with Trevor, you can go over to his Twitter, which is also the official Veil of the Void Twitter at twitter.com/publisherssdg. Is
Hmm.
there in the description, as well as the official Veil of the Void Discord. I got the permanent code right there in the description for anyone to
Yep.
go into. And you can also go to their site if you want to get the demo book for yourself, though they only got the first edition. Second edition, I think you said it's going to be going up soon.
Yeah.
Tuesday, I think you said the
Yeah,
second
at the
edition
latest. I'm
should
going to
be.
work on it tonight, so it'll probably be done tonight. But I don't like to promise things. So,
Well, it's somewhere between today or the end of next week. You can
Mhm.
see the second edition probably replace the first edition on the site, and that's at sdgcreatives.com. And I gotta ask, what is SDG?
SDG, a lot of people actually ask me that, which is fun, but it stands for Soli Deo Gloria, which is
Huh.
Latin. It means solely for the glory of God is what we call it. But and so not a lot of people know, but I personally am a Christian.
Oh,
Not
okay.
that I don't push it onto other people.
Not that you push it or
I'm not one of those who are gonna
literally
go.
everything you do off of that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
So I Fail the Void. I wanted a game that was, it's really fun and super cool, but it's also, something that, my mom would be like, "Hey, you can play this," because it doesn't have a demon on the front of it. so,
Yeah.
so I wanted. So that's kind of what Solis Daedalus or SCG stands for. So
Okay, fair enough. And
Mhm.
you can also go to the Veiled Void Patreon and do regular donations to them if you want at
Yeah, good stuff
patreon.com
on there.
slash Veil the Void.
Yeah, we're gonna have very soon, right after the book releases, we're gonna have 2 new races on there that are purely bound to Patreon. So
Ooh,
$5 isn't bad for that.
definitely not too bad. $5 a month for that, and hey, if you want to game the system, you only need to pay for that first month to get the race. Hey,
Yeah, hey, that's fine.
hey,
I'll
hey,
take the $5.
yeah. But I would definitely recommend to keep to go into a tier or basically a donation level that you can do consistently over a long period of time because support your local indie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even $1 helps.
Yeah.
I have a Patreon that gives us $1, and I'm like, oh, thank you. That was so
Oh
nice.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
And you can also come over to my stuff. I got
oh yeah,
my official Twitter down in the description, twitter.com/duskquill_team. I also have my own patreon.com/duskquill, where you can, support, Table Talk as well as possible other shows. I've actually been thinking about doing a analysis videos of different types of things that people
ooh,
may want me to do critiques and analysis of. I think it'd be kind of fun. I
that does
like it.
sound
I
fun.
like analyzing stuff. I think it'd be kind of fun to share my thoughts on things. And you can also support me since I'm going to be going into comic books, help support my own comic ventures. I got 2 in the works,
Ooh, nice.
as well as my own tabletop games because I'm doing quite a bit of those as well.
Yes,
Um,
you've been posting some, and it looks really good.
oh yeah, I'm a little bit of a insane creative. I dabble in a lot of things. So you can
Nice.
support me with that Patreon, as well as you can also, if Patreon's not your thing, you don't like Patreon because no Patreon has its fair share of a bunch of controversies. You can instead go to Subscribestar and donate to Subscribestar slash Duskquill or Duskquill Team. I can't remember what the extension for that is, but it's down there in the description as well, and it basically has the same reward setups there.
I've never seen Subscribe Star.
Subscribestar is pretty good. It's got like a lot neater layout. It doesn't have as much hangups as Patreon because a lot of people don't like it when certain websites do like the whole hey, if you do bad stuff on other sites, we're going to ban you on ours. And Subscribestar doesn't really have that. Well,
Ah,
Patreon kind of does. Or they say they don't do, but they do.
that's fair.
Yeah, it is completely 100% fair.
So okay,
So yeah,
oh, cool.
you can go either way. Does not matter to me. Either way, you'd be supporting me. And after I'm done with this, I'm also going to be start loading up some of these archived videos onto BitChute because some people Again, YouTube has a lot of hang-ups and a lot of oopsies people don't like, and they go to BitChute. And actually, I've been hearing a lot that people have been getting a lot more traffic off of BitChute. Actually,
Oh, I've never look at all these things I'm learning from you today.
yeah, and I especially love BitChute a lot more because unlike Twitter, where you gotta like, I mean not Twitter, YouTube, where you gotta like plug in all the stuff every single time into the description. BitChute is like, hey, you got like offsite revenue like Subscribestar, PayPal, and Patreon. Well, you can basically just set all this stuff up on your profile, and every time you upload a video, we'll just plug it right in there for people to donate directly.
Huh, interesting.
Oh yeah,
Good. Learned all sorts of new stuff from you today.
oh yeah, also some new stuff. And today will be the first time I'll upload to BitChute, so that's going to be an interesting experiment.
Ooh, that'll be interesting to see.
Oh yeah, and with that, we'll officially call this interview over. Trevor, thanks for coming along and showing off your thing. It was quite a thing to see.
Oh yeah, well thanks for having me. It was fun.
Oh yeah, and if you guys in the chat want, we can stay in chat for a little bit longer while Trevor goes and continues about his day and not starve to death.
Yeah, and then start working on the book again, like always. So,
Oh yeah, I like how long you've been slaving away on this book now?
too long. for,
Too long.
for almost 5 years. But it's okay. It'll be done soon, and
It'll be
everything will
done
be
soon. It'll be
perfect.
all worth it. Then you can
Yeah.
start slaving away on all the expansions.
Well, I've already slaved away. The thing is, I've been slaving away on that while I'm working on this book. That's why I don't get much sleep.
Yeah, so it'll be more okay. Just to keep people's interest in the thing, I would just start releasing new stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be like quickly releases so everybody can get some cool stuff.
And I think you said you're going to do it every 1 or every 2 months.
One
You're
to
going
two
to be
months. Yeah, hopefully.
you'll be releasing the new expansions, which will have new classes, new races, and new lore
New
stories to
lore, new monsters. Have a module coming out soon. Things like that.
so basically some new plot hooks for DMs to use for quick sessions.
Yep.
That'd be pretty nice. And me and you definitely need to get together and start talking about my expansion ideas.
Yes. But thanks
Uh,
for having me. So I'm gonna go eat. You guys have a great rest of your night.
oh yeah, you have a good one as well.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Well, wasn't he great, everybody? What's everyone up to in the chat here? Oh yeah, it's definitely great. He's got modules planned already. I can't wait to see what he's got. Indeed, Dust got some pretty dope ideas. Thanks, Neostar. You got some great ones too. Though you haven't quite seen my ideas for Veil the Void. There's going to be some pretty good stuff. Want to play your Western game? Yeah, I definitely need to finish up that Western game and get into a beta position. Get a couple levels of skills worth for the different classes. Get the items done, some basic enemies. That'll definitely be useful for a beta test. Oh, hey. Trevor's a really nice guy. He just DM'd me in Discord saying that that was a lot of fun and thanking me for having him on again. Very nice guy. I like Trevor. He again very active in the community. So, is there anybody in the chat have anything they want to ask or talk about as a hangout topic, or anything more about Veil of the Void, or maybe about something else entirely? Pretty open forum debate here. What you caught the very beginning? It's no problem. Uh, this will be immediately archived after I turn off the broadcast and in the live stream, so you can later on, after a while, when the video is done processing, you can just immediately watch the entire interview all over again from the very beginning. So it'll be fine. Need to plot to take over the overworld. Well, I mean, we're not an Underdark, though we're going to be. Though soon, me and Nightseeker will be in a campaign where we're basically going to take over the overworld in D&D. Though there'll probably be some planets that'll have underworlds and probably factions that want to take over their overworld. Primitives, man. You know how they go. Oh, that was delightful. Oh yeah, of course. I actually love these interviews. They're always a delightful thing to do. I was at least a bit nervous about doing these interviews at first because It's like I like again, I've never done interviews or like gave out interviews before doing this show, so it's always nice. Recently played Teppen on mobile. Apparently, one of the story characters or bees are from Monster Hunter. Oh, that's kind of neat. I also need to plot the demise of the claws. Wait a minute. Oh, you're Ethan. Oh yeah, Ethan. I completely forgot what even your name, what your full name was, Ethan. Holy shit! I got two people from from my D&D group in here. I completely forgot your full name, bro. I'm more used to seeing you as uh what is it copycat. I'm more used to seeing you as copycat, and every once in a while calling you Ethan. Damn, I am completely sorry. Imagine some of your beasts and monsters appearing in a crossover, dude. A lot of people would regret my monsters making crossovers. A lot of people, they love my monsters. They also hate them. I hope I haven't made you feel bad, Ethan. It's just that I'm not used to your full name anymore, so it threw me through a loop. So sorry, man. Hope we're still friends. Okay, fair enough. Well, we all knew you regret yourself, Night Seeker. I regret yourself. I regret yourself. Hey, Tank. Long time no see. I don't know how long you've been here for, but if you just came, you just missed the whole thing. You have to watch the archive if you want to hear the interview and see the show off of the second edition of the Veil of the Void. Yeah, you missed quite a live stream. Trevor was a sweetheart. I like Trevor. Kyle's the only thing I don't regret. Yeah, but again, just like how I regret yourself, I regret Kyle. Kyle's a bit too batshit. Yeah, sorry, Tank. You missed the whole thing. Uh, Normally at this point we would have taken a break. Taking a break, just to stretch around, maybe get something to drink, and then come back for possibly hanging out. But Trevor is going out of town to eat out, so yeah, he's done for the night. He won't be hanging out with us. But if you ever want to see talk with Trevor or see the or see what Veil of the Void is about, you can go into the description, and I got like all the stuff you'll need to get in contact with him or to see Veil of the Void yourself. It'll be fine. I think he said on at least at Tuesday. If it's not Tuesday, it's going to be at least sometime next week. He's going to get the second edition of the demo book out, and even I will admit the second edition is a lot better than the first edition. So I will probably wait until that comes out. There's a lot of changes, and a lot more stuff makes sense. But I guess I can tell you some news. You'll probably find out yourself when you rewatch. But he's got a lot of stuff planned. He's got like a a new module, like 32 classes, 16 races, that, and it's going to be a hell of a thing. I definitely can't wait. Oh, is there anything everybody in the chat want to talk about specifically that we can go into a hangout topic into? Or if anyone wants to join in the chat, you're more than welcome to. I can send you a hangout invitation. We can chat, actually, since it's only going to be me talking. Make me feel a lot better if I had someone to bounce off with, rather than just wait for faceless people to type shit up. I'll be more than happy to send invites to people. What's some stuff earlier in the chat that I may have missed? Neostar, you misspelled Eldritch there, but I would definitely like to see your take on some Eldritch horrors. That'd be kind of interesting, especially with your superhero setup. USBs are power. Yep, definitely. USBs are very much power. You also seem to be pretty into the mimic class. So Tank Ferret, you want an invite to the Google Hangout? I guess I can make that work. I see I can find. Aren't you in some of my? Are in some of the discords that I'm in? Uh, Maybe not under Tank Ferret, though. I think I know that you do have like an alternative username, but I just cannot remember it for the life of me. Maybe I can find you on Twitter. DM at you. Um, it's Scalpel Zero, right? At Take Vanguard? Yeah, should be it. Let me just email you this thing here, and we can get to chatting. Oh, I accidentally muted myself there. Copy. Then paste. There we go. Should be in your DMs. Just get that when you get that. Oh, wait a second. Okay, yep, I got the right person. So it should be right in your DMs. Now let's see if he actually shows up. It's been a while since we actually talked on Twitter. We should interact a lot more often. A lot of stuff been going on Twitter. Oh, hey man, how's it going? Is everything fine on your end there? Oh, apparently not. Well, if if Tank can figure out his issue here, we might call it here. Oh, you good? Nope, still no. Would join, but I have no idea what Google Hangout is. I'm on mobile since I have no laptop at the moment. Google Hangout is pretty simple, especially for inviting people. I just give you a link, you click on it, you get into the chat room. Super quick. Um, I would, but I'm currently on mobile and at work. Oof. What are you doing? What are you doing watching us at work, man? Lazy son of a bitch. Get back to work. But no, not really. Keep watching. Even though I don't really get any benefit out of it, I'm not monetized. I don't bother with monetization, so I'm not getting any money. Murphy's Law strikes again. Oh well, that's fine. Maybe some other time. Tank. Maybe we could talk. But as of that, I guess it'd be safe to call it here. So thanks for showing up, everybody. We had a great live stream, great interview, great time hanging out, and if you just want to get in contact with me or Trevor or support either of us and Veil the Void, just go into the description and look at all those things. And you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.